You have been told that tiredness means you need more sleep. They told you to rest more, take a break, close your eyes earlier, drink more water, and wait until your strength comes back. But if sleep was the answer, why do you still wake up feeling heavy? Why does your mind feel tired before the day even begins? Why does your body lie still while something inside you keeps moving? Why do you feel exhausted even when you have done nothing at all? The truth is, you are not only tired in your body, you are tired in a way sleep cannot fix. You are tired from pretending to be okay when your heart is quietly asking for help. Tired from carrying emotions you never fully felt. Tired from being strong when you needed softness. Tired from explaining yourself to people who still do not understand. Tired from wanting life to be different while still having to live inside the life you have. Tired from smiling when your soul feels far away. Tired from holding everything together while slowly losing touch with yourself. Buddhist wisdom teaches that some exhaustion does not come from doing too much. It comes from fighting too much, fighting reality, fighting change, fighting your own feelings, fighting the present moment, fighting the part of you that only wants to stop and breathe. This kind of tiredness does not need more pressure. It does not need another goal. It does not need another reason to keep pushing. It needs presence. It needs compassion. It needs the quiet courage to come back to yourself without shame. Tonight, as you listen to this, something in you may begin to soften. Your thoughts may slow down. The invisible weight you have been carrying may finally have a name, and the tired part of you that has been ignored for so long may feel seen for the first time in a long time. This is not just a message about rest. This is a gentle return to the place inside you that life has not destroyed, the place that is still peaceful, still patient, still waiting for you. If you are tired in a way sleep cannot fix, this is for you. Let us begin. And before we go any deeper, let us begin with the tiredness many people do not even know they are carrying. Not the tiredness from walking too far, working too long, or sleeping too little, but the kind that comes from waking up every day and putting on a version of yourself that feels safe, acceptable, impressive, spiritual, strong, or easy to love. This is the tiredness that does not always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like smiling. Sometimes it looks like success. Sometimes it looks like being calm when you are breaking inside. And that is what makes it so dangerous, because the world may praise the very mask that is quietly draining your life. There is a kind of exhaustion that begins when you stop living as yourself and start performing as someone others can approve of. At first, it may not even feel like a performance. It may feel like maturity. It may feel like responsibility. It may feel like being a good person. You tell yourself, I am fine, even when your chest feels heavy. You say, it does not bother me, even when it stays in your mind for days. You laugh when something hurts you. You act peaceful when your heart is boiling. You pretend to be strong because you do not want to look weak. You pretend to be unbothered because you do not want people to know they still have the power to hurt you. You pretend to have everything under control because you are afraid that if people see the truth, they may respect you less, love you less, or leave you alone with your pain. But here is the quiet truth. Pretending takes energy. Hiding takes energy. Smiling over pain takes energy. Swallowing words takes energy. Acting like you are not tired takes more energy than admitting that you are. It is like carrying a heavy bag everywhere you go, but because the bag is invisible, people keep asking why you walk so slowly. They do not see the weight of the false self. They only see the image you have learned to maintain. And the saddest part is that many people do not create a false self because they are fake. They create it because, at some point, being real did not feel safe. Maybe when you were honest, someone mocked you. Maybe when you cried, someone called you too sensitive. Maybe when you needed help, people disappeared. Maybe when you showed anger, people punished you with silence. Maybe when you failed, someone made you feel like your worth had dropped. So slowly, you learned to edit yourself. You learned which emotions were allowed. You learned which parts of you got love and which parts were too much. You learned how to become easy for other people to handle, even if it made you hard for yourself to live with. This is why some people are tired in a way sleep cannot fix. They are not just tired from life. They are tired from managing an identity. They are tired from asking, how should I act here? What should I say? What should I hide? What will they think? Will they still like me if I tell the truth? Will they still respect me if they see that I am struggling? And when your whole life becomes a stage, even rest begins to feel like another performance. You lie down, but your mind is still rehearsing. You sit in silence, but your heart is still trying to protect the image. Buddhist wisdom speaks deeply to this kind of suffering because Buddhism does not only ask, what are you doing? It asks, who are you clinging to? Not who you truly are, but who you are trying so hard to be. In Buddhist teaching, suffering often comes from attachment, and one of the heaviest attachments is the attachment to a fixed image of yourself. The image of the strong one, the wise one, the successful one, the spiritual one, the one who never complains, the one who always understands, the one who can handle anything, the one who is above pain, the one who does not need reassurance, the one who does not fall apart. At first, these identities may seem beautiful. Who does not want to be strong? Who does not want to be calm? Who does not want to be seen as kind, wise, patient, or successful? But the problem begins when the identity becomes a prison. Strength becomes a prison when you are not allowed to be tired. Kindness becomes a prison when you are not allowed to say no. Spirituality becomes a prison when you are not allowed to feel anger, grief, jealousy, confusion, or disappointment. Success becomes a prison when you cannot admit that your achievement did not heal your emptiness. Calmness becomes a prison when you are only calm on the outside, while inside you are begging for someone to notice that you are not okay. And this is where many people confuse peace with suppression. They think being peaceful means never reacting, never crying, never being affected, never needing anything. But real peace is not pretending that the storm is not there. Real peace is being honest enough to say, there is a storm in me, and I do not have to become the storm. That is very different. Buddhism does not teach you to become a stone. It teaches you to become aware. Awareness is not numbness. Awareness is not a smile pasted over pain. Awareness is the courage to see what is truly happening inside you without running, without judging, and without turning it into a costume. You may have met people who always look calm, but their calmness feels cold. They do not speak their pain, but you can feel the weight of it around them. They say they have moved on, but one small comment makes their whole body tighten. They say they are unbothered, but they remember every detail of what happened. They say they are above conflict, but they quietly resent people for years. This is not peace. This is pain dressed in spiritual clothing. And many people are exhausted because they are not only hiding from others, they are hiding from themselves. To carry a false self is to live with constant inner division. One part of you knows the truth. Another part of you is trying to keep the image alive. One part of you wants to cry. Another part says, do not be weak. One part of you wants to rest. Another part says, people are watching. One part of you wants to be honest. Another part says, what if they leave? So you become split. You are there, but not fully there. You speak, but not completely. You smile, but not freely. You succeed, but cannot enjoy it. You rest, but cannot receive it. You love, but still feel unseen. And the body feels this split. The body knows when you are pretending. The jaw tightens when words are swallowed. The shoulders rise when feelings are held back. The stomach turns when you say yes, but mean no. The chest becomes heavy when you act fine for too long. The face becomes tired from smiling for people who never ask what is behind the smile. You may think you are hiding your emotions, but your body is storing the cost. This is why you can sleep for 8 hours and still wake up drained. The body rested, but the mask did not come off. There is also a false self that comes from always trying to look successful. This one is very common because the world teaches people to measure their worth by visible progress. People ask what you do, what you own, what you have achieved, who admires you, how far you have gone, how much you have become. So you learn to package your life. You learn to look busy, even when you are empty. You learn to sound confident, even when you are scared. You learn to show the good side, hide the messy side, and call it privacy. But deep down, you know when you are no longer living. You are branding yourself. You are not resting in your life. You are managing how your life appears. And there is a special tiredness that comes from trying to appear spiritual. This may sound strange, but it is real. Some people do not allow themselves to be human because they are trying so hard to be healed. They think they must always respond with wisdom, always forgive quickly, always stay calm, always be above small emotions. So instead of being free, they become trapped in the image of the enlightened person. They may say beautiful things, but inside they are lonely. They may speak of detachment, but secretly they are aching. They may teach compassion, but they do not give it to themselves. They may tell others to feel their emotions, but they judge their own emotions the moment they arise. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to pretend you have no wounds. It asks you to stop believing the wound is your whole identity. That is a very gentle difference. You do not need to act as if pain is not there. You also do not need to become the pain. You can simply see it. You can say, this is sadness, this is fear, this is shame, this is anger. This is the part of me that learned to hide. When you name what is real, the false self begins to lose its power because masks survive in unconsciousness. They survive when you do not ask questions. They survive when you keep moving too fast to notice them. They survive when you confuse being admired with being known. Being admired and being known are not the same thing. Many people are admired for the false self and lonely in the true self. People admire their strength, but nobody knows how much they want to be held. People admire their wisdom, but nobody knows how confused they feel at night. People admire their success, but nobody knows how empty the room feels when the applause ends. People admire their kindness, but nobody knows how often they feel used. This is one of the deepest pains of carrying a false self. It can win attention, praise, and approval, but it cannot give you intimacy, because intimacy requires truth. And maybe that is why some people feel lonely even when surrounded by people. It is not because no one is there, it is because the real self is not there. The body is in the room, the voice is in the conversation, the smile is on the face, but the truth is hidden somewhere inside, waiting for permission to breathe. You may have many people around you, but if they only know the version of you that performs, the deeper part of you will still feel alone. It is like receiving food that never reaches your stomach. Compliments come in, but they do not nourish you because they are feeding the mask, not the person beneath it. So how do you begin to return to your true nature? Not by suddenly telling everyone everything, not by breaking down in public, not by rejecting every role you have. The return is much quieter than that. It begins with honesty in your own heart. It begins when you stop lying to yourself in small ways, when you stop saying, I am fine, and gently admit, something in me is tired. When you stop saying, it does not matter, and admit, it mattered to me. When you stop saying, I do not care, and admit, I cared, but I was afraid to show it. This kind of honesty is not weakness. It is the first door back to freedom. In Buddhism, there is a deep respect for seeing things as they are, not as you want them to be, not as others expect them to be, not as your ego needs them to look, but as they are. This is not always comfortable. In fact, the first moment of truth can feel painful because you finally see how long you have been away from yourself. You may realize you have been living to be approved, not to be free. You may realize you have been calling it strength when it was really fear of needing others. You may realize you have been calling it peace when it was really silence. You may realize you have been calling it maturity when it was really exhaustion. But do not use this realization to attack yourself. That would only create another mask, the mask of the person who now has to heal perfectly. Instead, meet yourself with kindness. You did not create a false self because you were foolish. You created it because you were trying to survive. At some point, it helped you. It protected you. It allowed you to move through rooms where your truth was not welcomed. It helped you receive approval when love felt uncertain. It helped you avoid conflict when conflict felt dangerous. Thank it for how it protected you, but do not let it rule the rest of your life. There is a beautiful freedom in realizing that you do not have to keep proving that you are okay. You can be a sincere person without being perfectly stable. You can be a strong person and still need rest. You can be a spiritual person and still feel hurt. You can be a kind person and still have boundaries. You can be successful and still have days when you feel lost. You can be loved without being useful. You can be respected without being impressive. You can be worthy without performing worthiness. This is where true nature begins to appear, not as something dramatic, but as something simple. Your true nature is not the personality you invented to survive. It is the quiet awareness beneath all the roles. It is the part of you that is present before you explain yourself. It is the part that can watch your thoughts without becoming them. It is the part that knows when something feels false. It is the part that feels relief when you finally tell the truth. In Buddhist practice, you are invited to return again and again to this awareness. Not to create a better mask, but to see through the mask altogether. A simple way to begin is to pause during the day and ask, who am I trying to be right now? Not with judgment, but with curiosity. When you are about to answer a message, ask, am I responding from truth or from fear? When you are about to say yes, ask, is this yes honest? When you are smiling in a room, ask, is this smile real or am I hiding? When you are trying to sound strong, ask, what would I say if I did not need to impress anyone? These questions are like small lamps in a dark room. They help you see where your energy is leaking. Another practice is to notice when your body feels tight. The false self often speaks through tension before it speaks through thoughts. If your stomach drops when you agree to something, listen. If your throat tightens when you want to speak, listen. If your chest feels heavy after pretending to be fine, listen. The body is not trying to betray you. It is trying to bring you back. Many people think the mind holds all wisdom, but sometimes the body is the first part of you brave enough to tell the truth. And when the truth rises, do not rush to fix it. Just stay with it. This is where Buddhist mindfulness becomes powerful. Mindfulness is not sitting perfectly with an empty mind. It is the gentle act of being here with what is here. If sadness is here, you notice sadness. If fear is here, you notice fear. If the need to impress is here, you notice it. You do not need to hate it. You do not need to obey it. You simply see it. And whatever is clearly seen begins to loosen. The false self cannot control you in the same way when awareness is present. Many people are afraid that if they stop pretending, their life will fall apart. They fear people will reject them. They fear they will lose respect. They fear they will become lazy, emotional, or weak. But often, what falls apart is not your life. What falls apart is the costume that was suffocating your life. And yes, some people may not like the real you at first, especially if they benefited from the version of you that never complained, never needed anything, never said no, and never disturbed their comfort. But losing approval from people who only loved your mask is not always a loss. Sometimes it is the beginning of breathing again. This does not mean you become careless with others. It does not mean you say everything without compassion. It does not mean you turn honesty into harshness. Buddhist wisdom is not about throwing your pain at people and calling it truth. It is about speaking and living from a place that is less controlled by fear. There is a way to be honest without being cruel. There is a way to be kind without disappearing. There is a way to be calm without pretending. There is a way to be strong without abandoning your softness. The false self says, I must be what they expect so I can be safe. The true self says, I can be present with what is real and still be safe inside myself. That shift may not happen overnight. It may begin with one honest sentence, one boundary, one moment of silence where you do not force a smile, one decision not to explain what does not need explaining, one breath before you perform, one day when you admit, I am not okay today, and the world does not end. And even if the world around you does not immediately understand, your nervous system begins to understand. Your heart begins to understand. Something inside you says, finally we are not lying anymore. There is deep rest in that. Not the kind of rest that comes from sleep alone, but the kind that comes from no longer fighting yourself. You may still have work to do. You may still have problems. You may still have responsibilities. But there is a different energy when you are meeting life as yourself. The same tasks feel lighter because you are not carrying the extra weight of performance. This is why returning to your true nature is not selfish. It is healing. When you stop pretending, your compassion becomes cleaner. Your love becomes more honest. Your boundaries become kinder because they are not built from resentment. Your presence becomes deeper because you are not half hiding. People may feel safer around you because they are no longer interacting with a polished image. They are meeting a human being. And a human being who has made peace with their own truth can offer something far more powerful than perfection. They can offer presence. So if you have been tired in a way sleep cannot fix, ask yourself gently, what version of me am I exhausted from pretending to be? Maybe you are tired of being the strong one. Maybe you are tired of being the one who always understands. Maybe you are tired of acting like success has satisfied you. Maybe you are tired of pretending you have moved on. Maybe you are tired of looking spiritual while secretly feeling broken. Maybe you are tired of being easy for everyone else while becoming a stranger to yourself. Whatever the answer is, do not run from it. That answer is not here to shame you. It is here to guide you home. The moment you see the mask, you are already less trapped by it. The moment you admit the performance, something real begins to breathe. The moment you stop forcing yourself to appear untouched, your heart begins to soften. And maybe this is the beginning of the rest you have been searching for. Not the rest of escaping life, but the rest of no longer abandoning yourself in order to survive it. Buddhist wisdom does not say, become someone special. It says, wake up to what is true, and what is true does not need to impress. It does not need to perform. It does not need to prove its worth every hour of the day. Your true nature is not loud, but it is steady. It is not dramatic, but it is alive. It is not the mask that people clap for. It is the quiet self beneath the mask, waiting patiently for you to stop running from your own heart. So take one breath here. Let the shoulders drop a little. Let the face soften. Let the version of you that has been trying so hard rest for a moment. You do not have to be impressive right now. You do not have to be healed right now. You do not have to be strong right now. You do not have to be okay before you are allowed to be gentle with yourself. You are allowed to be real before you are ready. You are allowed to come home slowly. And once you begin to put down the false self, you may notice something surprising. Beneath all that exhaustion, there is still life. Beneath the performance, there is still tenderness. Beneath the image, there is still a person who wants to breathe, feel, laugh, cry, rest, and exist without constantly proving they deserve space. That person has not disappeared. They have only been waiting behind the mask. And the path back to them begins with one simple, brave act. Stop pretending that carrying the mask is peace. It is not peace. Peace is when you finally let yourself be where you are, as you are, without turning your whole life into a performance. And when that happens, even a small moment can feel like freedom. A quiet room, a real breath, a truthful sentence, a tear you no longer hide, a no that protects your energy, a smile that finally belongs to you. This is how you begin to heal the tiredness that sleep cannot fix. Not by becoming a new person, but by returning to the one who was always there, underneath the noise, underneath the fear, underneath the false self you carried for too long. And once you begin to see how tiring it is to carry a false self, another truth begins to rise. Sometimes the mask is not the only thing exhausting you. Sometimes you are tired because underneath everything you do, there is a quiet argument happening inside you. An argument with your life, an argument with what happened, an argument with what did not happen, an argument with the people who changed, the plans that failed, the years that passed, the doors that closed, and the version of reality you never wanted to accept. And this kind of tiredness is heavy because no one can see it. You may look calm, you may go to work, you may answer messages, you may smile when someone asks how you are. But inside, something keeps whispering, this is not how it was supposed to be. There is a tiredness that comes from wanting life to be different every single day. Not just wanting improvement, not just hoping for better. That is natural. But the deeper exhaustion comes from resisting the life that is already here. It comes from waking up and mentally pushing against your own reality before your feet even touch the floor. You look at your circumstances, your relationships, your age, your body, your past, your responsibilities, your disappointments, and something in you says, no, not this, not here, not now, not me. And because reality does not immediately change just because you reject it, you spend your energy fighting a wall that does not move. This is why some people are tired before anything happens. They are not tired because the day has been hard. They are tired because they have already wrestled with life in their mind. They have already argued with the past. They have already compared their life with someone else's life. They have already replayed what should have happened. They have already imagined the version of themselves they think they should be by now. They have already judged the present moment for not being good enough. And all of this happens quietly, almost invisibly, before the outside world has even asked anything from them. Buddhist wisdom understands this kind of suffering very deeply. It teaches that pain is part of life, but suffering grows when the mind adds resistance to pain. There is what happens, and then there is the war we create around what happens. Losing something hurts. Being betrayed hurts. Aging can hurt. Failure can hurt. Change can hurt. But then the mind adds, this should not have happened. I cannot accept this. My life is ruined. I should be somewhere else. They should have treated me differently. I should have known better. I should be further ahead. And suddenly the original pain is no longer alone. It is surrounded by anger, shame, regret, comparison, fear, and endless mental protest. This does not mean the pain is not real. Buddhist acceptance is not pretending that something is fine when it is not fine. It is not smiling at suffering and calling it a blessing. It is not allowing people to hurt you and saying, this is my karma, so I must endure it. No, that is not acceptance. That is confusion. Real acceptance is much cleaner and much stronger. It means you stop wasting your life arguing with the fact that this moment is already here. You stop fighting the first truth so you can respond wisely to the next truth. There is a difference between saying, I accept this, and saying, I approve of this. Many people reject acceptance because they think it means approval. They think accepting a painful reality means agreeing with it, liking it, allowing it to continue, or giving up on change. But acceptance does not mean you approve. It means you are finally willing to see clearly. You can accept that someone betrayed you without approving of betrayal. You can accept that a relationship ended without believing it was fair. You can accept that you made a mistake without hating yourself forever. You can accept that today is difficult without deciding that your whole life is hopeless. Acceptance is not weakness. It is the point where your energy stops bleeding into denial and becomes available for wisdom. Think of how much strength people lose by fighting facts. A person may spend years thinking, if only they had loved me properly. But the fact is, they did not. Another person may keep saying, I should have chosen differently. But the fact is, the choice was already made. Someone else may wake up every day thinking, my life should be easier by now. But the fact is, this is the life standing in front of them today. The mind keeps returning to an imaginary courtroom, trying to prove that reality was wrong. But even if you win the argument in your head, your life still waits for you in the present. And that is where exhaustion deepens, because the soul cannot rest while the mind keeps trying to edit the past. The heart cannot soften while you are still demanding a different yesterday. Your body cannot fully settle while your inner world keeps saying, this moment is unacceptable. You may sleep, but some part of you stays alert, not because danger is happening right now, but because your mind keeps treating reality as an enemy. Buddhist acceptance begins with a simple but powerful recognition. This is what is here, not forever, not as a final sentence, not as your whole identity, just here, now. This pain is here, this disappointment is here, this uncertainty is here, this loneliness is here, this tiredness is here. The moment you say this honestly, something begins to shift. You are no longer using half your energy to deny what your heart already knows. You are no longer pretending the wound is not bleeding. You are no longer decorating the truth to make it more comfortable. You are standing in front of reality without turning away. And strange as it sounds, that can become the beginning of peace. Not happiness at first, not excitement, not sudden relief. Sometimes acceptance first feels like grief, because when you accept what is, you also release the fantasy of what you kept hoping it would become. You stop waiting for the past to become kinder. You stop waiting for certain people to become who you needed them to be. You stop waiting for your younger self to make better choices. You stop waiting for a lost season to return and give you a different ending. That can ache. But it is an honest ache, and an honest ache heals better than a fantasy that keeps reopening the wound. Many people do not realize that resisting reality is often an attempt to avoid grief. They keep arguing with what happened because accepting it would mean feeling the sadness underneath. It feels easier to be angry than to admit you are heartbroken. It feels easier to blame life than to feel the emptiness of what did not arrive. It feels easier to keep chasing an explanation than to sit with the truth that some things hurt, even when you understand them. So the mind resists. It debates. It complains. It compares. It says, "Why me?" again and again, hoping that if it asks enough times, the pain will become logical enough to stop hurting. But not everything that hurts can be solved by explanation. Some things must be met with presence. This is one of the quiet gifts of Buddhism. It does not force you to turn every wound into a neat lesson immediately. It does not ask you to pretend you are grateful for every painful thing. It simply invites you to sit with what is here and observe it without adding more suffering. When pain is here, pain is here. When sadness is here, sadness is here. When disappointment is here, disappointment is here. You do not need to build a whole identity around it. You do not need to turn it into a prophecy about your future. You do not need to fight it like an enemy. You can bow to the truth of the moment and say, "This too is part of my life." There is deep humility in that sentence. This too is part of my life. Not only the beautiful parts, not only the successful parts, not only the moments that make sense, not only the days when you feel proud of yourself. The confusion is part of your life too. The delay is part of your life. The loss is part of your life. The ordinary days are part of your life. The seasons when you do not feel like yourself are part of your life. The chapters you would not have chosen are still chapters you have lived. And when you keep rejecting them, you reject pieces of your own journey. No wonder you feel divided. No wonder your soul feels tired. Wanting life to be different becomes especially exhausting when you compare your timeline with someone else's. You look at another person's relationship, another person's career, another person's peace, another person's confidence, another person's family, another person's success, and suddenly your own life feels like a mistake. But you are not seeing their whole life. You are seeing a small window, often cleaned and arranged for display. You do not see the fear behind their choices, the private arguments, the silent nights, the hidden losses, the pressure they carry, or the things they envy in someone else. Comparison makes you resist your own path because it convinces you that life is happening correctly for everyone except you. Buddhist wisdom brings you back from that illusion. It reminds you that each life unfolds under causes and conditions too complex for the mind to fully measure. Your life is not late because it does not match someone else's season. Your path is not worthless because it looks different. A flower does not become a failure because it blooms after another flower. A river does not become meaningless because it bends before it reaches the sea. The mind wants straight lines, quick answers, and visible proof. But life often moves through delays, endings, detours, and quiet preparation. When you resist every bend in the path, you turn the journey itself into punishment. This does not mean you stop desiring a better life. There is a healthy desire that comes from clarity. You can want healing. You can want peace. You can want better relationships. You can want stability. You can want a life that feels more honest. But there is a difference between moving toward change and rejecting the present with hatred. One gives you energy, the other drains it. When change grows from acceptance, it sounds like, "This is where I am, and I can take one wise step." When change grows from resistance, it sounds like, "I cannot stand my life, and I must escape myself before I can breathe." The first path is grounded. The second path is desperate. A desperate mind does not see clearly. It rushes, it clings, it makes decisions from panic. It turns people into saviors. It turns goals into rescue boats. It believes that peace is always somewhere else. When I get that job, then I will rest. When they apologize, then I will heal. When I have more money, then I will feel safe. When I finally become the person I want to be, then I will accept myself. But this keeps peace in the future, always one condition away, and the future is a moving target. Every time you reach one thing, the mind creates another requirement. This is why wanting life to be different can become a prison, not because change is bad, but because your peace becomes dependent on reality obeying your personal script. Buddhist acceptance cuts through this. It says, can you meet this breath before the next achievement? Can you be here before life becomes perfect? Can you stop making peace, wait until every problem is solved? This is not easy because the mind believes resistance keeps you safe. The mind thinks if it relaxes, everything will fall apart. It thinks if you accept the present, you will lose motivation. But look closely. Has constant resistance made you free? Has self-attack made you wiser? Has replaying the past changed it? Has hating where you are helped you move with grace? Sometimes the very thing you think is protecting you is the thing exhausting you. There is an old kind of suffering in the sentence, I cannot be okay until this is different. It gives all your power to conditions. It makes your inner world a hostage to outer circumstances. Of course, circumstances matter. Of course, pain affects you. Of course, some situations need to change. But if your entire sense of peace depends on life becoming exactly what you want, then peace will always be fragile. Buddhist practice does not promise that life will obey you. It teaches you how to stop being destroyed when it does not. One practice that helps is learning to separate reality from the story you are adding to it. Reality may be, this person did not call me. The story may be, I am not important to anyone. Reality may be, I am not where I wanted to be at this age. The story may be, I have failed completely. Reality may be, today feels heavy. The story may be, my life will always feel this way. The story is often what burns the most energy. Reality may hurt, but the story turns hurt into identity. Mindfulness helps you pause and ask, what is actually happening and what am I adding? That question alone can save you from drowning in thoughts that feel true but are not complete. Another practice is softening the body when resistance appears. Resistance is not only mental, it has a physical shape. The forehead tightens, the breath becomes shallow, the shoulders brace, the belly hardens, the hands grip. The body prepares for battle, even when the battle is with a memory, a thought, or a fact that cannot be changed. When you notice this, do not scold yourself. Simply breathe into the tight place and say, I see the fight in me. Not, I must stop fighting immediately. Not, I should be more peaceful. Just, I see the fight in me. Seeing is already a form of release. Sometimes acceptance begins with one sentence repeated gently. This is here. Not, I like this. Not, I want this forever. Just, this is here. The bill is here. The grief is here. The uncertainty is here. The loneliness is here. The mistake is here. The new beginning is here. The silence is here. The delay is here. When you stop denying what is here, you can finally ask, what is the kindest wise step now? That question is much more useful than, why is my life not different? One question opens a door, the other keeps you staring at a wall. The war against reality also shows up in relationships. You may be exhausted because you keep wanting people to be different from who they have repeatedly shown themselves to be. You want the emotionally unavailable person to become tender. You want the careless person to become thoughtful. You want the person who avoids responsibility to finally understand the damage they caused. You want someone to give you the apology, the softness, the loyalty, or the attention you needed. And because you can see who they could be, you keep suffering over who they are not. Acceptance in relationships can be painful because it asks you to stop negotiating with potential and start seeing patterns. It asks you to stop living inside the hope of who someone might become and notice how they actually treat you. This does not mean you hate them. It means you stop abandoning reality to protect an illusion. You can have compassion for someone's wounds and still accept that they may not be capable of loving you in the way your heart needs. You can understand someone and still stop waiting for them to change before you give yourself permission to be free. There is also the exhaustion of wanting yourself to be different. This one is more hidden. You may resist your own personality, your sensitivity, your pace, your needs, your body, your history, your fears, your way of processing pain. You may keep thinking, I should be stronger, I should be more confident, I should be over this, I should be more disciplined, I should be less affected, and every should becomes another stone on your back. Growth is beautiful, but self-rejection disguised as growth is painful. Buddhist acceptance invites you to begin where you are, not where your shame says you should be. A seed does not become a tree by hating itself for being underground. It grows because conditions support it. In the same way, you do not become peaceful by hating the part of you that is not peaceful yet. You do not become healed by shaming the part of you that still hurts. You do not become brave by rejecting the part of you that is afraid. Acceptance creates the ground where real change can happen. Without acceptance, change becomes violence against the self. With acceptance, change becomes care. This is why stopping the war against what already is can feel like finally putting down a weapon you forgot you were holding. You may have carried that weapon for years, against your past, against your body, against your family, against time, against missed chances, against your own heart. You may have thought the weapon was strength, but maybe it was only keeping you tense. Maybe it was keeping your nervous system locked in battle. Maybe it was making every day feel harder than it had to be. When you stop fighting reality, you do not become passive. You become available, available to see clearly, available to choose wisely, available to grieve honestly, available to change what can be changed and release what cannot, available to live the life that is here instead of spending all your energy mourning the life you think should be here. There is a quiet dignity in that. A person who accepts reality is not defeated. They are awake. And being awake means you can still act. If your situation is unhealthy, acceptance may help you leave. If your body needs care, acceptance may help you stop ignoring it. If your heart is grieving, acceptance may help you stop pretending. If your path needs adjustment, acceptance may help you take the next step without shame. Acceptance does not remove responsibility. It removes the fog around responsibility. It helps you stop asking life to be something else long enough to see what this life is asking from you now. So if your soul feels exhausted, ask gently, what reality am I still refusing to meet? Is it the reality that someone has changed? The reality that a season is over? The reality that you need help? The reality that you are tired? The reality that a dream needs a new shape? The reality that you cannot go back and become who you were before certain things happened? Do not ask these questions to hurt yourself. Ask them like a lantern entering a dark room. You are not searching for blame. You are searching for the place where your energy has been trapped. And when you find it, breathe. Do not force yourself to accept everything at once. Acceptance is sometimes a slow unfolding. Today you may only accept one small truth. Tomorrow, another. Today you may only stop arguing for one breath. That is enough. A single breath without war is already a taste of freedom. A single moment where you say, this is here and I can meet it, is already different from a lifetime of saying, this should not be happening. The soul becomes less tired when it stops demanding that the present moment apologize for existing. Life may still be imperfect. Some answers may still be missing. Some wounds may still ache. Some dreams may still feel far away. But you are no longer spending every ounce of your energy fighting the ground beneath your feet. You are standing on it. And when you stand on what is real, even painful reality, you can finally move. This is the quiet power Buddhist wisdom offers. It does not hand you a life without difficulty. It teaches you how to stop turning difficulty into inner war. It does not promise that everything will go your way. It shows you how to meet the way things are without losing yourself. It does not ask you to give up. It asks you to stop wasting your sacred energy arguing with what has already arrived. So let the heart hear this gently. You are not weak because you are tired. You may simply have been fighting reality for too long. You may have been carrying not only your pain, but your protest against your pain. You may have been holding not only your life, but the constant belief that your life should be somewhere else by now. No wonder you feel heavy. No wonder sleep has not been enough. Maybe the rest you need begins with a sentence softer than surrender and stronger than denial. This is my life today, and I will meet it with presence. Not forever, not perfectly, not without tears, but honestly. And from that honesty, something in you begins to return. The breath deepens, the shoulders loosen, the mind stops running so far ahead, the heart stops begging yesterday to change. You begin to feel the ground again, and when you stop the war against what already is, you may discover that peace was never waiting for life to become perfect. Peace was waiting for you to stop treating this moment like an enemy. It was waiting beneath the resistance, beneath the complaint, beneath the fear that acceptance meant defeat. It was waiting for the moment you became willing to be here, fully here, not because here is easy, but because here is where your life is actually happening. And once you can be here, even with pain, even with uncertainty, even with unfinished dreams, you are no longer trapped in the endless exhaustion of wanting life to be different before you allow yourself to breathe. And when you stop fighting reality, something deeper often begins to appear. At first you may think acceptance will make everything calm immediately, but sometimes the opposite happens. When the war against what already is becomes quiet, the feelings you were too busy resisting finally have room to rise. The sadness you pushed away, the anger you swallowed, the disappointment you explained too quickly, the grief you carried like a silent weight. This is where many people become confused because they thought they were tired from life itself, but they were also tired from holding emotions that never had a chance to finish their journey. There is a kind of fatigue that comes from feelings left unfinished. It is not always loud. It may not look like crying on the floor or shouting in a room. Sometimes it looks like waking up with a heavy chest for no clear reason. Sometimes it looks like losing interest in things you used to enjoy. Sometimes it looks like being irritated by small things because a much larger pain has nowhere to go. Sometimes it looks like being physically present but emotionally far away, as if part of you stayed behind in a moment you never fully processed. You may say, "I do not know why I feel so tired," but your body may know. Your body may be carrying conversations you never had, tears you never released, anger you never admitted, and endings you never truly mourned. This is why sleep alone cannot fix every tiredness. Sleep can rest the muscles, but it cannot complete emotions you have spent years avoiding. Sleep can close your eyes, but it cannot open the places inside you that were shut down to survive. Sleep can pause the day, but it cannot dissolve grief that was never allowed to move through you. An unfinished emotion is like a letter that was written but never delivered. It remains inside, waiting for attention. And the longer it waits, the heavier it becomes. Many people learned very early that emotions were inconvenient. They were told to stop crying, calm down, be mature, be grateful, be strong, be reasonable, be quiet, be brave, be good. So they began to treat feelings like problems to hide instead of messages to understand. Sadness was covered with productivity. Anger was covered with politeness. Fear was covered with control. Disappointment was covered with jokes. Grief was covered with "I am fine." And because life kept moving, they assumed the emotions disappeared. But emotions do not disappear just because they are ignored. They often sink lower, into the body, into the breath, into the posture, into the way you respond to the world. Buddhist wisdom teaches that whatever is not met with awareness continues to shape us from the shadows. This does not mean every emotion must become a dramatic event. It means every emotion is asking to be known. In mindfulness, we do not chase emotions, worship emotions, or drown in emotions. We simply learn to see them clearly. We notice them as passing experiences. We say, sadness is here, anger is here, fear is here, grief is here. Not I am sadness, not I am anger, not this feeling will last forever. Just this is what is moving through me right now. That simple shift creates space. And in that space, the emotion can begin to breathe. An emotion becomes unfinished when it is interrupted before it completes its natural movement. A child cries and someone says, "Stop that." A person is betrayed, but they tell themselves, "Do not care." Someone loses a loved one, but they rush back into responsibilities because everyone expects them to be strong. A dream fails, but the person immediately says, Everything happens for a reason, even though their heart has not had time to ache. These interruptions may look like strength from the outside, but inside they leave open loops. The body started a process, but the mind stopped it halfway. This is why you can feel strange waves of emotion long after something happened. A song comes on, and suddenly your chest tightens. Someone speaks in a certain tone, and anger rises faster than expected. A small disappointment makes you feel crushed, not because of the small thing alone, but because it touches older disappointments. You see someone living a life you wanted, and grief appears without warning. These moments are not proof that you are weak. They are signs that something inside you is still asking to be met with honesty. Sadness, when unfinished, can turn into a quiet dullness. Not the kind of sadness that cries openly, but the kind that steals color from life. You may still function, you may still laugh, you may still do what is expected, but somewhere inside, a softness has gone silent. You may stop expecting much. You may tell yourself not to hope too deeply. You may move through your days as if nothing is wrong, but everything feels slightly far away. This kind of sadness often comes from losses you minimized, the friendship that faded, the version of yourself you outgrew, the apology that never came, the home that no longer feels like home, the dream that slowly became impossible. Because these losses may not look dramatic to others, you may not give yourself permission to grieve them. But the heart does not measure pain by how impressive it looks to the world. It responds to what mattered. Anger, when unfinished, can become tension, sarcasm, resentment, impatience, or emotional distance. Many people are afraid of anger because they have seen it used destructively. They think anger makes them bad, unspiritual, difficult, or unsafe, so they bury it. They smile. They stay calm. They say, "It is okay," when it is not okay. But anger often carries important information. It may be pointing to a boundary that was crossed, a truth that was ignored, a need that was dismissed, or a wound that was treated like nothing. Buddhism does not teach blind rage, but it also does not require emotional dishonesty. Anger becomes dangerous when it controls you unconsciously, but when seen clearly, anger can become a messenger. It can say, "Something here needs attention. Something here was not fair. Something here should not continue." Disappointment, when unfinished, can become bitterness. It can make you stop trusting life. It can make you expect less, not from wisdom, but from fear. You may tell yourself, "I do not care anymore," when the truth is, you cared deeply and got tired of being let down. Repeated disappointment can make a person spiritually exhausted because every hope begins to feel risky. But disappointment needs to be felt, not denied. It needs to be held gently enough that it does not harden into a permanent view of life. A disappointed heart does not always need a motivational speech. Sometimes it needs someone, even your own mindful awareness, to say, "Yes, that hurt. Yes, you wanted it to be different. Yes, it mattered." Grief, when unfinished, can become a hidden room inside you. You may build your life around it without realizing it. You avoid certain memories. You avoid certain places. You avoid talking too deeply. You keep yourself busy because stillness opens the door. But grief is not only about death. Grief can come from losing time, losing trust, losing innocence, losing identity, losing a relationship, losing health, losing the future you once expected. Many people are grieving lives they never got to live, versions of themselves they never got to become, and love they never received in the way they needed. Yet they do not call it grief, so they never truly tend to it. The body holds what the heart has not been allowed to finish. This is not because the body is trying to punish you. It is because the body is part of your emotional life. When you hold back tears, the throat tightens. When you swallow anger, the jaw may clench. When you live with fear, the breath may become shallow. When you carry grief, the chest may feel heavy. When you live in constant disappointment, the body may begin to feel tired before the day even begins. The mind can say, "I have moved on," but the body may still be saying, "I never got to feel that." Mindful awareness is the gentle bridge between what happened and what still lives inside you. It gives your emotions a place to unfold without forcing them, judging them, or turning them into a story that traps you. When you practice mindful awareness, you stop asking, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" and begin asking, "Can I be present with this feeling without becoming afraid of it?" That question changes everything, because many emotions remain stuck not because they are too strong, but because we keep tightening around them. We resist the sadness, so it stays. We fear the anger, so it hides. We shame the grief, so it sinks deeper. Awareness softens the grip. To let an emotion complete its journey does not mean you act on every feeling. It means you allow the feeling to move through the body and be known by the mind. If anger arises, you do not have to send the message, start the argument, or destroy the relationship. You can sit, breathe, and feel where the anger lives in the body. Is it in the chest, the hands, the jaw, the stomach? You can say, "Anger is here, and I can listen without obeying." If sadness arises, you do not need to explain it away. You can let tears come if they come. You can place a hand on your heart and say, "This sadness belongs. It does not make me weak." If grief arises, you do not need to rush toward closure. You can allow it to move in waves because grief does not follow a schedule created by the mind. One of the most healing things you can do is stop demanding that your emotions be convenient. Feelings rarely arrive when you have time for them. They may rise while you are washing dishes, sitting in traffic, hearing someone's name, or lying in bed at night. The old habit is to push them away and say, "Not now." Sometimes you truly must wait, especially if you are in a place where you need to function. But later, there must be a now. There must be a place where the emotion is welcomed back. You can tell yourself, "I cannot fully feel this at this moment, but I will return to it with care." That is very different from abandonment. That is emotional responsibility. Many people think healing means they will eventually stop feeling certain emotions. But Buddhist wisdom suggests something different. Healing means you stop being enslaved by them. You learn to let emotions arise and pass without building a permanent self around them. A wave does not become the whole ocean. A cloud does not become the whole sky. In the same way, sadness can move through you without defining your entire life. Anger can visit without becoming your personality. Grief can be honored without turning your future into a grave. The problem is not that emotions arise. The problem is that we either cling to them, fear them, or refuse to see them. There is also fatigue from over-explaining emotions instead of feeling them. Some people analyze their pain so much that they never actually touch it. They can explain why they are sad, why they are angry, why they are disappointed, why they are afraid. They know the childhood root, the relationship pattern, the nervous system response, the spiritual meaning, the lesson, the trigger, the label. But after all that analysis, the body still feels heavy. Why? Because understanding an emotion is not the same as allowing it to move. The mind can create a map of the wound, but the heart still needs tenderness. Knowledge can guide healing, but presence completes it. This is where silence becomes important. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of listening. Sit quietly for a moment and let the body speak without needing to turn everything into words. Ask, "What feeling has been waiting for me?" Then listen through sensation. A heaviness may appear, a warmth, a tightness, a trembling, a numbness. Even numbness is information. It may be the body's way of saying, "I had to shut down because feeling everything at once was too much." Do not attack the numbness. Meet it gently. Sometimes the first emotion you need to feel is the absence of feeling. Unfinished emotions often hide behind busyness. The moment life becomes quiet, they rise. This is why some people are afraid of rest. They say they are bored, but they are actually uncomfortable with what silence reveals. They keep the television on, keep scrolling, keep cleaning, keep planning, keep helping others, keep chasing goals, because stillness allows the buried world to knock. But the knocking does not mean something is wrong with you. It means something in you wants to be free. The emotion is not coming to destroy your peace. It is coming because it has been waiting outside the door of your attention. Buddhist practice teaches a gentle courage, the ability to stay. Stay with the breath, stay with the sensation, stay with the tear, stay with the ache. Not forever, not forcefully, not in a way that overwhelms you, but long enough for the feeling to know it is no longer abandoned. This staying is powerful because most suffering has been intensified by leaving yourself at the moment you most needed presence. When pain came, you escaped into thoughts. When anger came, you judged yourself. When grief came, you distracted yourself. When disappointment came, you hardened. Mindfulness says, "This time I will not leave." And when you do not leave, something begins to complete. The sadness may become tears, and after tears, a little space. The anger may become a clear boundary, and after the boundary, less resentment. The disappointment may become grief, and after grief, acceptance. The fear may become trembling, and after trembling, breath. Completion does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like a small release in the chest, a deeper exhale, a softer face, a sentence you finally admit to yourself, a memory that no longer grips you the same way. These small releases matter. They are the body learning that the past is not still happening. There is a difference between feeling an emotion and feeding an emotion. Feeling is direct. Feeding is adding stories. Feeling says, "There is sadness in my chest." Feeding says, "Nothing ever works for me, and it never will." Feeling says, "Anger is moving through my body." Feeding says, "Everyone is against me." Feeling says, "I miss what I lost." Feeding says, "I will never be whole again." Mindful awareness helps you stay close to the raw truth without pouring more fuel into the fire. You let the emotion be felt, but you do not keep building a house inside it. This is especially important with grief. Grief needs kindness, but it also needs spaciousness. If you cling to the story around grief too tightly, it can become an identity that feels impossible to release. But if you reject grief, it becomes frozen. The middle way is to honor grief as love, as loss, as memory, as proof that something mattered, while also allowing life to continue moving around it. You do not betray what you lost by breathing again. You do not dishonor your pain by allowing small moments of peace. Grief can remain part of your heart without being the only room you live in. Anger also needs a wise middle path. Suppressed anger poisons the body, but uncontrolled anger harms the world around you. Mindfulness gives anger a clean place to stand. You can feel the heat without throwing it. You can hear its message without letting it drive. You can ask, what boundary is this anger asking me to notice? What value was violated? What truth have I been avoiding? When anger is met with awareness, it often reveals pain beneath it. Under anger, there may be hurt. Under hurt, there may be longing. Under longing, there may be a deep need to be treated with care. This is why anger should not be dismissed too quickly. It may be guarding something tender. Sadness also has its wisdom. It slows you down. It softens the places that have become too hard. It shows you what mattered. It brings you closer to your own humanity. A person who never allows sadness may become efficient, but not necessarily alive. Sadness can wash the heart if it is allowed to move, but when sadness is judged, it becomes heaviness. You do not have to love sadness. You only have to stop treating it like an enemy. Sometimes sadness is the heart's way of bowing to what was real. Disappointment teaches another kind of wisdom. It shows where expectation met reality and broke. That breaking can either make you bitter or more awake. If you feel disappointment fully, without turning it into hatred for life, it can reveal where you were attached to a particular outcome. It can show you what you hoped for, what you valued, and where you may need to loosen your grip. Buddhist wisdom does not say, never hope. It says, hold hope gently. When disappointment is allowed to complete, hope can return in a wiser form, less desperate, less blind, less dependent on one door opening. There is also a fatigue that comes from always being composed. Some people have mastered the art of appearing fine. They speak calmly. They smile at the right time. They keep their voice steady. They do not let people see how much something affected them, but inside, emotions pile up like unsent letters. Being composed has its place. It can be useful. It can protect dignity. But if you are always composed, even in private with yourself, you may become emotionally locked. The soul needs places where it does not have to perform stability. Even the strongest person needs a room where the truth can breathe. That room may be meditation, it may be journaling, it may be prayer, it may be walking slowly without music, it may be talking honestly with someone safe, it may be sitting on the edge of the bed and finally admitting, "That hurt me more than I allowed myself to know." The form matters less than the sincerity. The emotion needs a witness. And sometimes the first witness must be you. Mindful awareness also teaches patience with emotional timing. You cannot force an old feeling to release just because you are tired of carrying it. Emotions open when they feel safe enough. If you pressure yourself to let go quickly, you may only create another layer of tension. Letting go is not a command. It is often the result of full seeing. The leaf falls from the tree when its season is complete. In the same way, some emotions loosen after they have been honored, felt, understood, and allowed to move at their own pace. This is why forcing positivity can be harmful. When you cover every painful emotion with, "I am blessed," it could be worse, "I should be grateful," or "everything is fine." You may sound wise, but the body may feel unheard. Gratitude is beautiful when it is honest. But gratitude used to silence pain becomes another mask. You can be grateful and still sad. You can have faith and still grieve. You can understand the lesson and still feel the loss. You can be healing and still have days when the old ache returns. This is not failure. This is being human. Buddhist compassion includes the parts of you that are not peaceful yet. It includes the part that is angry, the part that is still grieving, the part that is embarrassed by how much it hoped, the part that still misses someone, the part that still feels small when reminded of an old wound. Compassion does not say, "You should be over this." Compassion says, "I see you are still carrying something. Let us sit together." That inner tone matters. Many emotions remain unfinished because they are met with inner cruelty. They try to rise, and immediately the mind says, "Not this again." But what if instead you said, "Welcome, I know you have something to show me." This does not mean you indulge every emotion endlessly. It means you meet it with enough respect that it no longer needs to shout. Often, the feelings we avoid become louder. The feelings we welcome become clearer. Once clear, they move. They may return later, but each time they are met with awareness, they carry less charge. The body begins to trust you. The heart begins to believe that it will not be abandoned again. Slowly, the inner world becomes less crowded. If you are tired in a way sleep cannot fix, ask yourself, what emotion did I never finish feeling? Not to open wounds carelessly, but to stop pretending that the wound is not already affecting you. Was there a goodbye you never grieved? An insult you laughed off but carried? A betrayal you explained away too quickly? A disappointment you buried under ambition? A fear you turned into control? A sadness you turned into silence. Your answer may not come immediately. Let it come softly. The body often speaks in whispers before it speaks in words. When the feeling appears, do not rush to solve it. Place your attention on the breath. Notice where the emotion lives. Give it a name if a name comes. Let the body soften around it. If tears come, let them come. If nothing comes, let nothing be there. If anger comes, let the heat be felt without becoming harm. If grief comes, let it move like weather through a wide sky. You are not trying to become perfect. You are learning to stop running from your own inner life. And as these emotions complete their journey, you may discover that tiredness begins to change. Not all at once, not magically, but slowly. The body no longer has to spend so much energy holding back what wants to move. The heart no longer has to keep locked doors guarded day and night. The mind no longer has to create distractions to avoid silence. There is more room inside you, more breath, more honesty, more softness. You may still have responsibilities, but you are no longer carrying the extra weight of unfelt life. This is the quiet healing of mindful awareness. It does not erase the past, but it changes your relationship with what the past left behind. It lets sadness become water instead of stone. It lets anger become clarity instead of poison. It lets disappointment become wisdom instead of bitterness. It lets grief become love that has learned how to breathe. And when emotions are allowed to complete, they stop needing to live inside your body as permanent tension. So let this be the gentle invitation. You do not have to be afraid of what you feel. You do not have to run from the heaviness. You do not have to keep proving that you are strong by staying untouched. Something in you may be tired because it has been waiting too long to be felt. And maybe the rest you need is not only sleep, not only silence, not only distance from the world, but the sacred permission to let your inner life finally move. Because an emotion fully felt does not destroy you. More often, it returns you to yourself. It clears the space where numbness used to live. It brings warmth back to the places that became frozen. It reminds you that you are not a machine built to endure endlessly. You are a living being, and living beings must feel. This is not weakness. This is the movement of life through the heart. And once those unfinished emotions begin to move, you may notice another kind of exhaustion waiting underneath them. Because even when the body is still, even when the room is quiet, even when you finally lie down to rest, there may be a deeper part of you that still does not feel safe. That is where the next doorway opens, into the kind of tiredness that remains when rest is present, but the mind and body are still bracing for a threat that is no longer in the room. And when unfinished emotions begin to move, another truth may quietly reveal itself. Sometimes you are not restless because you have not slept enough. Sometimes you are restless because your body has forgotten how to believe in rest. You may lie down in a quiet room, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and still feel as if something inside you is standing guard. The day is over, but your mind keeps checking. Your body is still, but your breath is shallow. Nothing is attacking you, yet you feel braced for something. This is the kind of tiredness that comes when your mind still feels unsafe. There is a painful confusion in needing rest, but not being able to receive it. You may do all the right things. You may lie in bed early. You may put your phone away. You may drink water, dim the lights, and tell yourself to relax. But relaxation does not come just because the room is quiet. Rest does not arrive just because the body is horizontal. Peace does not obey command. If the nervous system still believes there is danger, the body will not fully surrender. It will keep one part of you awake, alert, listening, scanning, preparing, and waiting for something to go wrong. This is why some people wake up tired even after sleeping. The body may have gone through the motions of rest, but deeper inside it never fully released. It is like a house where all the lights are turned off, but the alarm system is still ringing. From the outside, everything looks calm. From the inside, there is noise. You may not even know what you are afraid of. You may only know that stillness does not feel peaceful. It feels exposed. Silence does not feel gentle. It feels too open. Rest does not feel like safety. It feels like lowering your guard in a world that has taught you to stay ready. And this is not your fault. Many people do not become tense by choice. They become tense because life trained them to be. If you have lived through long seasons of pressure, uncertainty, emotional conflict, disappointment, criticism, loss, or constant responsibility, your body may have learned that peace never lasts long. So even when nothing bad is happening in the moment, the body remembers what it had to survive before. It says, stay alert. Do not relax too much. Do not trust the quiet. Something may happen. This is how a person can be safe in the present, but still feel unsafe inside. Buddhist wisdom meets this suffering with deep gentleness because it understands that the mind often lives in places where the body is not. The body may be in bed, but the mind is in yesterday's pain, tomorrow's fear, next week's problem, last year's wound, or a future that has not happened. This split drains the spirit. You cannot rest fully when only your body is here. Rest needs your attention to come home to. It needs your breath, your awareness, and your nervous system to receive the message. This moment does not need to be fought. But that message cannot be forced. You cannot shout safety into the body. You cannot bully yourself into calm. You cannot shame yourself into peace by saying, "Why am I like this? Why can't I just relax? Other people can rest. What is wrong with me?" Those questions only make the body more tense. The body does not soften under criticism. It softens under patience. It softens when you stop treating your own nervous system like an enemy and begin treating it like a tired animal that has been guarding the door for too long. There is a reason Buddhist practice often begins with the breath, not because breathing is a magic trick, but because the breath is always happening now. You cannot breathe yesterday's air. You cannot breathe tomorrow's air. You can only breathe this breath. So when you return to the breath, you are not escaping life. You are returning to the only place where life can actually be met. The breath becomes a small bridge from fear back into presence. It says, here, now, this body, this moment. And sometimes that is enough to loosen the grip by a little. The problem is that many people only meet the present moment as a threat. They sit still, and immediately the mind begins to search for what is missing, what is wrong, what might happen, what should be fixed, what was said, what was not said, what could fall apart. The present becomes a room filled with alarms. But Buddhist presence teaches something different. It teaches you to meet the present moment as it is before the mind covers it with fear. Right now you may be sitting. Right now air may be entering and leaving. Right now the floor may be holding you. Right now the room may be quiet. Right now there may be pain, but pain is not the same as danger. Right now there may be uncertainty, but uncertainty is not the same as disaster. Right now there may be tiredness, but tiredness is not failure. That distinction matters. Many people confuse discomfort with danger. A difficult feeling arises, and the body reacts as if something terrible is happening. A memory appears, and the chest tightens. A worry comes, and the stomach knots. A silence falls, and the mind rushes to fill it. But discomfort is not always danger. Sadness is uncomfortable, but it does not mean you are unsafe. Loneliness is uncomfortable, but it does not mean you are abandoned forever. Anxiety is uncomfortable, but it does not mean the future is already broken. The body learns safety when it slowly discovers that it can feel something difficult without needing to fight it immediately. This is where mindfulness becomes more than a word. Mindfulness is not about having a perfectly calm mind. It is about noticing what is happening without instantly running into reaction. If the mind says something is wrong, mindfulness says a thought is here. If the chest tightens, mindfulness says tightness is here. If fear rises, mindfulness says fear is here. That small naming creates space between you and the alarm. You are no longer completely swallowed by it. You are witnessing it. And what is witnessed with compassion begins to lose some of its power. Rest does not work when the mind believes it must solve everything before it can be calm. This is one of the deepest traps of exhaustion. You may tell yourself, I will rest after I figure this out. I will sleep after I know what to do. I will relax when everything is certain. I will breathe when I know nothing will go wrong. But life rarely gives that kind of perfect certainty. So your peace keeps getting postponed. The mind keeps working overtime, trying to create a world where nothing can hurt you. But no mind, no matter how clever, can control all of life. It can only exhaust itself trying. Buddhist wisdom does not promise a future without uncertainty. It teaches you how to rest without needing certainty first. This is not easy. It goes against the habits of a frightened mind. A frightened mind says, prepare more, think more, check more, control more. Presence says, come back to this breath. A frightened mind says, what if something goes wrong? Presence says, in this moment, can you feel the ground? A frightened mind says, you are not safe until everything is solved. Presence says, you can soften one small place before everything is solved. This is the beginning of training the body to trust life again, not blindly, but gently. Some people feel unsafe because they have lived too long in emotional unpredictability. When you do not know which version of someone you will meet, your body learns to scan. When peace at home can turn into conflict without warning, your body learns to listen for changes in tone. When love is mixed with criticism, silence, or withdrawal, your body learns that closeness can become danger. Later, even in quiet moments, you may still scan faces, messages, pauses, and moods. You may feel exhausted after spending time with people because your body was not only socializing, it was monitoring. This is why rest is not only about getting away from physical work. Sometimes rest requires getting away from emotional threat, or at least recognizing where your body still believes it is under threat. If your nervous system is constantly adjusting itself around someone else's moods, your body may not know how to relax even when you are alone. It may keep replaying conversations. It may keep checking if you said the wrong thing. It may keep wondering how others feel about you. This is not weakness. It is a learned survival pattern, and like many learned patterns, it can be softened with awareness, safety, and time. The Buddha often pointed toward the suffering created by clinging, aversion, and ignorance. In this kind of exhaustion, aversion plays a strong role. Aversion means pushing away what we do not want. The mind pushes away fear. It pushes away uncertainty. It pushes away vulnerability. It pushes away the memory of being hurt. But the pushing itself keeps the body tense. It is like holding a door shut against a strong wind. The energy is not only in the wind, it is in the holding. When you stop fighting every inner movement, the body begins to learn that not every sensation needs defense. This does not mean you let every thought take over. It means you stop treating thoughts as commands. A thought may say, something bad is coming. Mindfulness can answer, thank you, mind. You are trying to protect me, but right now, I am here. A thought may say, you cannot rest yet. Mindfulness can answer, rest is allowed in small pieces. A thought may say, stay alert. Mindfulness can answer, I see the alertness. I can soften my hands anyway. This kind of inner dialogue may sound simple, but it is powerful because it changes the relationship between awareness and fear. You are no longer fighting fear with fear. You are meeting fear with steadiness. There is a great difference between being safe and feeling safe. Being safe is about the outer situation. Feeling safe is about the body's ability to receive that truth. Sometimes the outer situation has changed, but the inner system has not caught up. You may no longer be in the same painful environment, but your body still reacts as if you are. You may no longer be with the same people, but your heart still expects the same hurt. You may no longer be in the past, but your nervous system still carries its lessons. So healing is not only telling yourself that is over. Healing is helping the body experience again and again, this moment is different. Presence helps because it brings you out of the imagined threat and into direct contact with what is real now. Feel the bed beneath you. Feel the pillow. Feel the breath moving. Feel the weight of your body being held. Notice the temperature of the air. Notice the sounds near and far. Notice that you do not have to chase every thought. Notice that the body is here, not back there. This is not about denying pain. It is about updating the body. It is teaching the body through experience, not argument, that right now it can release one layer. Many people try to rest by escaping the body. They scroll, watch, eat, talk, plan, or distract until they are too tired to think. Sometimes distraction is understandable. Everyone needs relief. But if you only escape the body and never return to it gently, the body remains a place you do not trust. Buddhist presence invites you back into the body not as punishment, but as home. The body is not only where pain is stored, it is also where peace can be felt. The breath, the hands, the feet, the heartbeat, the warmth of the chest, the softness of the face, all of these can become doorways back to safety. A helpful practice is to stop trying to relax the whole body at once. That can feel impossible when the nervous system is alert. Instead, choose one small place. Unclench the jaw. Soften the tongue. Drop the shoulders slightly. Let the hands open. Allow the belly to loosen a little. Feel the feet. Let one exhale be longer than the inhale. These small signals matter. The body learns through repetition. Each tiny act says, "We are not in battle right now." You may have to say it many times. That is okay. A body that learned alertness over years may not unlearn it in one evening. And while you practice, do not turn calmness into another achievement. This is important. Some people sit to meditate and then become angry because they are not peaceful. They try to rest and then judge themselves for failing at rest. They turn healing into another performance, but the purpose is not to create instant calm. The purpose is to be present with whatever is here. If tension is here, tension is the practice. If restlessness is here, restlessness is the practice. If fear is here, fear is the practice. You are not failing because your mind is active. You are learning to stay with yourself without adding rejection. Sometimes the safest thing you can say to yourself is, "Nothing needs to be forced right now. Not the breath, not the mind, not the emotion, not the healing. Just this gentle permission can lower the inner pressure." A system that has lived in survival often believes everything is urgent. Every message feels urgent. Every decision feels urgent. Every mistake feels permanent. Every silence feels meaningful. Every future possibility feels like something to prepare for immediately. Buddhist presence teaches the sacred pause. It says, "Not every thought needs your whole body. Not every fear needs your full obedience. Not every problem must be solved before you are allowed to breathe." This is not laziness, it is wisdom. A tired nervous system does not make wise decisions when it is constantly activated. It reacts from old patterns. It overprotects. It misreads. It assumes. It prepares for rejection before love even speaks. It prepares for failure before effort begins. It prepares for loss before anything has left. Rest gives the mind space to see clearly, but rest can only come when the body no longer believes that letting go will lead to danger. So the practice is not simply relax. The practice is teach the body that it can relax safely, little by little. There is also a spiritual misunderstanding that keeps people unsafe inside. Some people believe that if they were truly wise, they would never feel afraid. They think fear means they lack faith or awareness. But fear is part of the human system. It is not a moral failure, it is a protective movement. Buddhist wisdom does not shame fear. It observes fear. It asks, what is fear made of? Where does it arise? How does it change? What happens when I stop calling it me? When you observe fear in this way, you may notice it is not one solid thing. It rises, shifts, moves, and fades. It has waves. It has sensations. It has thoughts attached to it. It is not your whole being. It is an experience passing through awareness. That awareness is wider than the fear. This is one of the most freeing discoveries. The part of you that notices fear is not afraid in the same way. The part of you that notices tension is not the tension itself. The part of you that notices racing thoughts is not trapped inside every thought. Buddhist practice gently returns you to this witnessing presence. You begin to see there is fear, but there is also awareness of fear. There is tension, but there is also awareness of tension. There is restlessness, but there is also awareness holding it. This awareness becomes an inner refuge, not because it removes every difficulty, but because it gives difficulty space to move. When the mind feels unsafe, it often tries to control the future. It creates lists, predictions, rehearsals, backup plans, and conversations that may never happen. Planning has its place, but anxious planning often becomes a false form of protection. It does not solve. It spins. It does not prepare. It drains. You may tell yourself, I am just thinking ahead, but your body feels as if it is running. The difference between wise planning and fear-driven planning is how your body feels afterward. Wise planning brings clarity. Fear-driven planning brings more agitation. Presence helps you notice the difference. You can ask, is this thought helping me take a real step, or is it only keeping my alarm alive? If there is a real step, take it gently. Write it down. Make the call. Set the boundary. Prepare what is needed. But if the thought is only looping, return to the body. Touch the present moment. Feel the breath. Let the mind know, we have thought about this enough for now. This is not ignoring life. It is refusing to let the mind turn your bed into a battlefield. The bed should be a place of rest, but for many people, it becomes the place where every unresolved fear arrives. During the day, noise covers it. Tasks distract from it. People pull attention outward. But at night, the mind has space, so it opens all the drawers. This is why nighttime can feel heavy. Not because night is your enemy, but because silence reveals what the day concealed. Buddhist presence can transform the night from a courtroom into a temple. Instead of letting the mind judge everything, you return to a simple ritual of being. One breath, one sensation, one gentle phrase. I am here. This is a thought. The body is held. This moment can be met. If you wake in the night, try not to treat it as failure. The more you panic about not sleeping, the more unsafe the body feels. You may say, now tomorrow will be ruined. I will not cope. Something is wrong. The alarm grows louder. Instead, meet wakefulness with softness. The body is awake right now. I can still rest. There is a difference between sleep and rest. Even if sleep has not come yet, you can rest your resistance. You can rest your jaw. You can rest the effort to control. You can rest the story that this moment is a disaster. Sometimes when the body stops feeling pressured to sleep, sleep comes more naturally. And even when it does not, you have not spent the whole night fighting yourself. This is where Buddhist acceptance from the previous lesson meets nervous system safety. You accept not only the big realities of life, but this small reality too. I am awake right now. My mind is active right now. My body is tense right now. When you stop adding panic to wakefulness, you reduce the second layer of suffering. The first layer is being awake. The second layer is, this should not be happening. I cannot handle this. I must fix this immediately. The second layer is often what hurts most. Presence removes the extra fight. Another powerful practice is loving kindness toward the body. Many people speak to their bodies harshly. Why are you so tense? Why are you tired? Why can't you rest? Why are you like this? But the body has been trying to protect you. Even if its alarm is outdated, its intention is survival. So speak differently. Thank you for trying to protect me. You do not have to work so hard right now. I know you learned to stay ready. We are practicing softness now. You are allowed to rest in small ways. This kind language may seem simple, but the body responds to tone, even inner tone. A gentle inner voice can become part of the safety the body never had. There are also practical forms of presence that support rest. A steady evening rhythm can tell the body that the day is ending. Lower lights, slower movement, less argument with screens, a few quiet breaths, a hand on the heart or belly, a short reflection where you write down what can wait until tomorrow. Not because rituals are magical, but because the body learns through signals. If every night ends in stimulation, conflict, or mental rushing, the body has no clear bridge into rest. But when you repeat small, calming signals, the body slowly begins to understand, we are entering safety now. Still, do not make the ritual perfect. If you miss it, do not attack yourself. The path is not perfection, it is returning. Buddhism is full of returning. Returning to the breath, returning to awareness, returning to compassion, returning from thought, returning from fear, returning from the old habit of fighting. Every return matters. Even if you return for 3 breaths, you have interrupted the pattern. You have shown the body another possibility. Some people also feel unsafe because they are carrying too many unspoken truths. Rest becomes hard when you are living against yourself. If there are things you need to admit, boundaries you need to set, changes you need to make, or pain you keep minimizing, the body may stay restless because it knows something is unfinished. Presence does not mean you sit quietly and ignore what needs action. It means you become clear enough to know what action is wise. Sometimes the body will not relax because it is asking for honesty, not drama, not impulsive decisions, honest recognition. This situation is harming me. This pace is not sustainable. This relationship does not feel safe. This silence is costing me. Such truths can be uncomfortable, but they can also become the beginning of real rest. Because real rest is not only relaxation, real rest is alignment. You can lie on a soft bed and still feel unsafe if your life requires you to betray yourself every day. You can take a vacation and still feel tense if you return to habits that keep your body in alarm. You can meditate and still feel uneasy if you use meditation to avoid necessary truth. Buddhist presence is not an escape from life. It is a way of seeing life clearly enough to stop living in ways that constantly disturb your inner ground. This is why the safest people often feel restful to be around. Not because they fix everything, but because you do not have to perform around them. You do not have to scan every word. You do not have to shrink. You do not have to guess which version of them will appear. Their presence says, you can breathe here. In the same way, you can learn to become that kind of presence for yourself. A place inside where you do not have to be perfect to be held. A place where fear can arise without being mocked. A place where tiredness can speak without being called lazy. A place where the body can slowly lower its guard. This inner safety is built through repeated moments of non-abandonment. When fear comes, you do not leave yourself. When tension comes, you do not hate yourself. When rest does not come, you do not turn the night into punishment. When the mind races, you do not believe every thought. You stay near, you breathe, you notice, you soften one small place. You let the present moment be simpler than the mind says it is. And slowly, the body learns. It learns that not every silence is dangerous. It learns that stillness does not always mean something bad is coming. It learns that rest is not a trap. It learns that you can feel fear and remain kind. It learns that the present moment can hold you, even when the future is unclear. This learning may be slow, but it is sacred. A nervous system that has been guarding for years deserves patience, not pressure. So if rest has not been working for you, do not immediately assume you are broken. Ask softly, what part of me still feels unsafe? Is it the part that expects criticism? The part that fears being left? The part that learned peace can disappear quickly? The part that thinks it must solve everything alone? The part that feels guilty when it stops? The part that believes rest must be earned through exhaustion? Let the answer come without force. The answer may be a memory, a sensation, a tightness, a fear, or simply tears. Whatever comes, meet it like a tired child at the door, not with panic, not with shame, with presence. You do not need to fix the whole nervous system tonight. You do not need to become perfectly calm before you are worthy of rest. You only need to begin teaching your body that this moment does not need to be fought. One breath can teach it. One softened hand can teach it. One kind sentence can teach it. One evening without self-attack can teach it. One moment of noticing, I am here, not there, can teach it. This is how rest becomes possible again, not by forcing the body into stillness, but by helping it trust stillness. Not by commanding the mind to be quiet, but by showing it that every thought does not need to become a battle. Not by pretending fear is gone, but by holding fear in awareness until it no longer has to run the whole house. This is Buddhist presence in its most practical form. It is not distant or complicated. It is the art of returning to now with enough gentleness that the body finally begins to believe you. And when the body begins to believe you, rest changes. The bed becomes less like a place where thoughts attack and more like a place where the body can be held. Silence becomes less threatening. Breath becomes deeper. The face softens. The mind still thinks, but the thoughts feel less sharp. The heart still carries life, but it does not have to carry it with clenched hands. You begin to understand that safety is not always something the world gives perfectly. Sometimes it is something you practice inside the moment you are in. So let this be the quiet reminder. You are not failing at rest. You may have simply been asking a guarded body to relax before it felt safe. You may have been lying down while your inner world was still standing at attention. You may have been sleeping with one part of you still listening for danger. No wonder you feel tired. No wonder the morning does not always feel like renewal. The body cannot deeply rest while it believes it must protect you from the present. But the present moment, this exact one, may be softer than your fear says. The breath is here. The ground is here. The body is here. Awareness is here. You do not have to fight this second. You do not have to solve your whole life before the next inhale. You do not have to earn the right to soften. Let one small part of you rest now. Let the jaw loosen. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath arrive without being forced. Let the mind be noisy if it is noisy, but do not follow every sound. And as you practice this again and again, another hidden exhaustion may begin to show itself. Because once the body learns that it does not have to fight the present moment, you may notice how often you have been fighting yourself in the name of becoming better. You may see that even healing, growth, success, and self-improvement can become another kind of pressure when they are driven by the belief that who you are right now is not enough. That is where the next doorway opens, into the hidden exhaustion of always trying to improve yourself. And once the body begins to understand that the present moment does not always need to be fought, another quiet pressure may come into view. It may not look like fear at first. It may look like discipline. It may look like ambition. It may look like healing. It may look like becoming better. But underneath it, there may be a tired voice saying, "I am not enough yet. I must keep working on myself before I can be at peace." And this is a very hidden kind of exhaustion because the world often praises it. People may admire how committed you are to growth, how much you read, how much you reflect, how hard you try, how often you push yourself to improve. But nobody sees that your self-improvement may have slowly become another way of rejecting the person you are right now. There is a kind of tiredness that comes from always trying to become a better version of yourself, especially when the version of you that exists today is never welcomed. You wake up and already feel behind. You think about the habits you should have built, the discipline you should have mastered, the pain you should have healed, the confidence you should have developed, the success you should have reached, the peace you should have found, the person you should have become by now. And before the day even begins, you are not living, you are measuring, you are comparing yourself to an invisible standard that keeps moving every time you get close to it. This kind of exhaustion is tricky because it wears beautiful clothes. It calls itself growth. It calls itself healing. It calls itself purpose. It calls itself self-development. And sometimes, yes, growth is needed. Healing is needed. Discipline is needed. Learning is needed. Change is needed. But when all of these are driven by the belief that you are unacceptable as you are, they become heavy. They stop being acts of care and become acts of punishment. You are no longer watering a garden. You are beating the soil and demanding flowers. Buddhist wisdom sees this clearly. It teaches that suffering often grows from craving and aversion. Craving says, "I must become something else before I can rest." Aversion says, "I cannot stand what I am right now." When these two forces rule your inner life, even your healing becomes restless. You meditate because you hate your anxiety. You read because you hate your confusion. You work hard because you hate feeling ordinary. You improve your body because you hate how it looks. You chase success because you hate feeling behind. You practice kindness because you hate your anger. You try to become spiritual because you hate being human. And because the root is rejection, the fruit is exhaustion. There is a difference between growing from love and growing from shame. Growth from love sounds like, "I want to care for this life." Growth from shame sounds like, "I need to fix myself before I deserve peace." Growth from love is patient. Growth from shame is urgent. Growth from love allows rest. Growth from shame turns rest into guilt. Growth from love sees mistakes as information. Growth from shame sees mistakes as proof that you are failing. Growth from love helps you become more honest. Growth from shame makes you wear another mask, the mask of the person who is always improving. And this mask can be very convincing. You may look wise, focused, and disciplined on the outside, but inside you may be exhausted from the constant inner command to become more healed, more successful, more peaceful, more attractive, more confident, more productive, more disciplined, more emotionally mature, more forgiving, more grateful, more calm, more spiritual, more impressive, more ready, more worthy. And the question nobody asks is, when will it be enough? At what point will you allow yourself to breathe? At what point will the person you are today be allowed to sit down without being corrected? Many people do not rest because they feel guilty being unfinished, but every human being is unfinished. The tree is unfinished while it grows. The river is unfinished while it flows. The moon changes shape and is still the moon. A person does not become worthy only at the end of healing. Worth is not a prize handed to you after you finally become easy to admire. Worth is already present, even in the messy middle, even in the tired season, even in the uncertain chapter, even when you still have habits to change and wounds to understand. Buddhist teachings do not deny the need for practice. Buddhism itself is a path of practice, but practice is not meant to become self-hatred with better language. Meditation is not a whip. Mindfulness is not a test. Compassion is not something you earn after you stop struggling. The path is not about becoming someone perfect. It is about waking up. And waking up begins here, not in some future version of you that has no fear, no anger, no confusion, no longing, and no scars. This is where many people misunderstand healing. They think healing means reaching a point where nothing hurts anymore. But healing often means learning how to stop abandoning yourself when something hurts. It means you no longer turn every wound into a reason to hate who you are. It means you can feel pain without calling yourself broken. You can notice anxiety without declaring yourself weak. You can make a mistake without turning your whole identity into failure. You can have an emotional day without deciding all your progress has disappeared. Healing is not becoming untouchable. Healing is becoming more present, more honest, and more compassionate with the life moving through you. The hidden exhaustion of always improving yourself often comes from a deep fear of being ordinary. The world teaches people that they must be exceptional to matter. You must have a powerful purpose, a perfect routine, a beautiful body, a clear plan, a healed mind, a successful career, a calm spirit, a strong brand, a meaningful life, and a story that makes sense. So people begin to feel ashamed of simple living, ashamed of slow progress, ashamed of quiet days, ashamed of needing time, ashamed of being confused, ashamed of not having a grand answer for everything. But Buddhism brings us back to the sacredness of the simple, washing a cup with full attention, taking one breath with awareness, walking without rushing, listening without trying to become impressive, being alive without turning life into a performance. There is nothing small about being fully present. A person who can drink tea without fighting themselves may be closer to peace than a person who has read 100 books on peace but still treats themselves like an enemy. A person who can forgive their own tiredness may be wiser than a person who speaks beautifully about compassion but never lets themselves rest. A person who can sit with their imperfect heart and not despise it has already touched something deep. But the mind does not always like this simplicity. The mind wants projects, it wants goals, it wants dramatic transformation, it wants proof. It wants to say, "Look how far I have come." It wants to turn healing into an achievement and peace into a trophy. And when it does that, the spiritual path becomes another competition. You compare your calmness, you compare your discipline, you compare your emotional maturity, you compare how quickly others seem to move on. You compare your meditation, your growth, your insight, your ability to let go. And suddenly, even the path that was supposed to free you becomes another place where you feel behind. Buddhist wisdom gently asks you to notice the craving behind this, not to judge it, but to see it. What are you hoping the improved version of you will finally receive? Love, safety, respect, belonging, freedom from shame, permission to rest. Often, the hunger to improve is not really about improvement. It is about trying to become someone who can no longer be rejected, someone who cannot be criticized, someone who cannot be abandoned, someone who cannot fail, someone who finally feels safe from the pain of being human. But no version of you can be so perfect that life will never touch you. Even the wisest person still experiences change, loss, misunderstanding, aging, uncertainty, and pain. The path is not to become untouchable. The path is to become deeply rooted. When you grow from fear, you keep asking, "What is wrong with me?" When you grow from awareness, you ask, "What is asking for care?" Those questions lead to very different lives. What is wrong with me creates shame. What is asking for care creates tenderness. One turns the self into a problem. The other turns the self into a living being. If you constantly treat yourself like a problem to solve, of course you are tired. No one can live peacefully inside a mind that keeps putting them on trial. This trial may show up in small ways. You rest for one afternoon and a voice says, "You are wasting time." You feel sad after weeks of feeling better, and a voice says, "You are going backward." You make a mistake and a voice says, "You should know better by now." You look at your life and a voice says, "You should be further ahead." You try to meditate and your mind wanders and a voice says, "You are bad at this." You try to be patient and lose patience and a voice says, "You have not changed." This voice may sound like motivation, but it is often cruelty dressed as discipline. Buddhist practice invites another voice, a voice that says, "Begin again," not as punishment but as mercy. The breath wanders, return. The mind gets lost, return. You speak harshly, notice and return. You fall into an old habit, notice and return. You forget presence, return. You do not need to build a new identity around every mistake. You do not need to turn every human moment into proof of failure. You are allowed to begin again without hating the one who got lost. This is one of the most beautiful things about mindfulness. It does not demand that you never drift. It simply teaches you to return. And each return is a small act of freedom. You return from shame to breath, from comparison to presence, from self-attack to compassion, from future pressure to this moment, from the fantasy of the perfect self to the truth of the living self. Over time, you learn that peace is not found by finally becoming someone who never struggles. Peace is found by changing how you meet yourself when struggle appears. The need to constantly improve can also hide a fear of stillness. When you are always working on yourself, you never have to fully meet yourself. There is always another book, another routine, another method, another goal, another plan, another version to chase. But stillness asks a bold question. Who are you when you are not trying to become someone else? That question can feel uncomfortable, because without the project of improvement, you may have to feel the emptiness you are trying to outrun. You may have to notice how long you have been waiting to approve of yourself. You may have to grieve the years spent believing that love was always one transformation away. And yet this question can also open a door. Who are you when you are not trying to be better for a moment? You are breathing, you are aware, you are here. You are a living person with history, tenderness, fear, wisdom, mistakes, effort, and longing. You are not a finished product. You are not a failure. You are not a project. You are life unfolding. That recognition may not be flashy, but it is deeply freeing. Buddhism often points toward non-attachment, but many people only think of attachment to people or possessions. There is also attachment to self-image, the improved self, the healed self, the successful self, the peaceful self, the one who finally has no messy emotions, the one who finally earns approval, the one who finally becomes beyond criticism. When you cling to this imagined self, you suffer every time the real self appears, and the real self will appear daily. It will get tired, it will misunderstand, it will need help, it will feel things, it will have limits, it will still be human. So the practice is not to destroy all desire for growth. The practice is to hold growth lightly. Work on yourself, but do not hate yourself while doing it. Learn, but do not shame the one who is still learning. Heal, but do not make the wound your enemy. Succeed, but do not make success the condition for your dignity. Become wiser, but do not despise the confused version of you that needed time to understand. There is a gentler way to grow. A helpful question is, would I speak this way to someone I truly love? If someone you loved was trying, failing, learning, and beginning again, would you say, "You are not enough until you fix everything"? Would you say, "Rest only when you become impressive"? Would you say, "Your pain is taking too long"? Probably not. You would offer patience. You would say, "Take your time. I see your effort. You are still worthy here." So why is your own heart the only place where compassion becomes unavailable? Some people fear that if they become kind to themselves, they will lose ambition. But kindness is not laziness. It is fuel that does not burn the soul. Shame may push you, but it also drains you. Fear may make you productive, but it rarely makes you peaceful. Self-hatred may force movement, but it does not create true freedom. Compassion, on the other hand, creates sustainable change. When you feel safe inside yourself, you can look honestly at your habits without collapsing into shame. You can admit what needs to change without attacking your identity. You can take responsibility without becoming cruel. You can grow because you love your life, not because you are trying to escape yourself. This is the kind of growth Buddhism supports. Growth rooted in awareness, not ego. Practice rooted in compassion, not performance. Discipline rooted in wisdom, not self-punishment. The Buddha did not teach people to become impressive. He taught the end of unnecessary suffering. And one form of unnecessary suffering is the constant belief that this moment, this body, this mind, this heart, this imperfect self must be rejected before peace can arrive. There is a quiet rebellion in accepting yourself now, not because you will never change, but because you refuse to make hatred the foundation of change. You can say, I am still learning and I am worthy. I have wounds, and I am not only my wounds. I have made mistakes, and I am not beyond compassion. I want to grow, and I do not need to hate myself into growth. These statements may sound simple, but for someone who has lived under constant inner pressure, they can feel like opening a window in a room that has been closed for years. Accepting yourself now also means accepting your pace. Not everyone heals at the same speed. Not everyone becomes clear at the same age. Not everyone has the same nervous system, history, support, energy, or responsibilities. Some people had to survive before they could grow. Some had to grieve before they could plan. Some had to rest before they could dream again. Some had to unlearn fear before they could trust themselves. You are not late because your path required more tenderness. You are not weak because your healing has layers. A deep wound does not become shallow just because the world is impatient. There is also wisdom in knowing that some seasons are not for improvement. Some seasons are for recovery. Some are for grieving. Some are for simplifying. Some are for listening. Some are for rebuilding trust with your own body. Some are for becoming honest about what you can no longer carry. But a mind addicted to improvement will try to turn every season into production. Even rest becomes optimized. Even healing becomes scheduled. Even sadness becomes something to overcome quickly. This is how people lose the sacredness of being human. They become managers of their own transformation instead of tender witnesses to their own unfolding. Buddhist presence invites you to sit with the person you are now, not as a problem, but as a guest. What if you welcomed yourself today? Not the future you, not the healed you, not the disciplined you, not the successful you, this you, the one with tired eyes, the one still learning how to breathe, the one who wants peace but sometimes reaches for distraction, the one who understands wisdom but still struggles to live it, the one who has come a long way, even if there is still a long way to go. What if this person did not need to be rejected? What if this person needed warmth? The mind may resist this. It may say, but if I accept myself, I will stay the same. Look carefully. Has rejecting yourself truly helped you become free? Or has it made every step feel heavier? Acceptance does not freeze you. It grounds you. A person standing on solid ground can move better than a person running from themselves. When you accept where you are, you can see clearly. When you reject where you are, you live in fog. You exaggerate your flaws. You ignore your progress. You confuse urgency with direction. You chase change from panic instead of wisdom. One small practice is to begin the day without immediately correcting yourself. Before you think of what must be fixed, take one breath and say, I am here. Let that be enough for one moment, not for the whole day, just one moment. Before the goals, before the pressure, before the list, before the self-judgment, let yourself exist without improvement. This may feel strange if you are used to earning your right to rest, but over time, these moments teach the heart that existence is not something to prove. Another practice is to notice the word should. I should be better. I should be healed. I should be calmer. I should be more successful. I should be over this. I should be different. Each should carries pressure. When you notice it, pause and translate it into something kinder and more precise. Instead of, I should be healed, say, there is a part of me that wants relief. Instead of, I should be more disciplined, say, I want to build trust with myself through small actions. Instead of, I should be over this, say, this still hurts, and I can meet it gently. This shift removes the whip and leaves the wisdom. You can also ask, is this improvement coming from love or fear? Before starting a new routine, chasing a new goal, or judging your progress, ask honestly. If it comes from fear, slow down. Fear may still be present, but it does not have to drive. Bring compassion into the action. Make the step smaller. Let the body feel included. Let the heart know it is not being punished. If it comes from love, the action will feel more grounded. It may still require effort, but it will not feel like self-violence. There is a deep rest in no longer trying to become worthy. You may still grow, but the growth becomes lighter. You may still heal, but the healing becomes kinder. You may still succeed, but success no longer has to carry the impossible task of proving your value. You may still practice meditation, but not to escape your humanity. You practice to meet it. You may still want to become more patient, more honest, more wise, but not because the current you is disgusting, because the current you is precious enough to be cared for. This is how Buddhism invites peace with the person you are now. Not by telling you that everything you do is perfect, not by denying the need for responsibility, not by encouraging you to stay asleep in harmful patterns, but by reminding you that awareness without compassion becomes harsh, and compassion without awareness becomes avoidance. The middle way holds both. You see clearly, and you do not hate what you see. You take responsibility, and you do not turn responsibility into shame. You grow, and you do not abandon the one who is growing. The person you are now is not an obstacle to your awakening. The person you are now is the doorway. This tired, imperfect, longing, learning self is where the path begins. Not after you become calm. Not after you stop making mistakes. Not after everyone approves of you. Not after you finally feel proud of every part of your life. The path begins in the exact place where your feet are. The breath you have now is the breath of practice. The mind you have now is the mind you learn to observe. The heart you have now is the heart that needs compassion. This moment is not a waiting room for a better life. It is the only place life can be touched. So if you are exhausted from always improving yourself, let this truth settle gently. You do not have to quit growth. You only have to stop using growth as a weapon against yourself. You do not have to stop healing. You only have to stop making healing another reason to feel behind. You do not have to stop dreaming. You only have to stop believing that your dreams are the only proof that your life has value. You do not have to stop becoming. You only have to remember that being is also sacred. Maybe tonight the kindest practice is not another lesson, another plan, another promise to change everything tomorrow. Maybe the kindest practice is to sit with yourself and say, I know you are trying. I know you are tired. I know you want to become better, but you are allowed to be here too. Let the current version of you be included in your compassion. Let the unfinished parts breathe. Let the pressure soften. Let the future wait for a moment while you return to the person who has been carrying everything until now. Because the strange truth is, when you stop rejecting yourself, real change often becomes easier. The body has more energy, the mind becomes clearer, the heart becomes less defensive. You no longer need to waste strength fighting your own existence. You can take steps from steadiness instead of panic. You can grow without running. You can heal without disappearing. You can succeed without turning yourself into a machine. You can become wiser without pretending you were foolish for needing time. And as this pressure begins to loosen, another hidden tiredness may appear. Because if you have spent years trying to improve yourself, you may also notice how often you have abandoned yourself to meet expectations, to keep peace, to avoid guilt, or to remain easy for others. You may see that exhaustion does not only come from the goals you chase, but from the moments you leave your own truth behind. That is where the next doorway opens, into the tiredness that comes when you keep saying yes, while something inside you is quietly saying no. And once you stop using growth as a weapon against yourself, a deeper question begins to appear. If you are already worthy as you are, why do you keep leaving yourself behind to be accepted by others? Why do you keep saying yes when your body is asking for no? Why do you keep swallowing hurt to keep the room peaceful? Why do you keep calling it kindness when it quietly costs you your own inner home? This is where another kind of tiredness begins, not from trying to become better, but from disappearing little by little in places where your truth was asking to be honored. There is a kind of exhaustion that comes from self-abandonment. It does not always arrive as one dramatic breakdown. It comes slowly. It comes each time you betray your own need to protect someone else's comfort. It comes each time you feel hurt but say nothing because you do not want to be difficult. It comes each time you agree when your whole body is quietly resisting. It comes each time you pretend something is fine because explaining your pain feels too tiring. It comes each time you make yourself smaller so another person does not have to face your truth. And after a while, you do not only feel tired, you feel far away from yourself. This is one of the most painful forms of tiredness because from the outside, it may look like goodness. People may call you patient. They may call you easygoing. They may say you are understanding, peaceful, mature, loyal, dependable, and kind. But deep inside you may know the truth. You are not always peaceful. Sometimes you are silent because you are afraid of what honesty might cost. You are not always patient. Sometimes you are waiting for someone to notice they have been taking too much from you. You are not always easygoing. Sometimes you have simply learned that your needs create tension, so you hide them before anyone can reject them. And that hiding has a price. A person can only ignore themselves for so long before the soul begins to feel empty. At first, you may feel proud of how much you can tolerate. You may tell yourself, "It is okay. I can handle it. It is not that serious. I do not want trouble." But every time you dismiss what is real inside you, a little trust breaks between you and yourself. Your inner world begins to learn. When I speak, I will be ignored. When I feel pain, I will be silenced. When I need something, I will be told to wait. And the saddest part is that the person doing this to you may not always be someone else. Sometimes it is you. Buddhist wisdom teaches compassion, but many people misunderstand compassion as self-erasure. They think being compassionate means never disappointing others, never setting boundaries, never expressing anger, never saying no, never protecting their peace. They believe kindness means absorbing everything quietly. But true compassion does not ask you to become a place where everyone can throw their pain while you disappear beneath it. True compassion includes you. If your kindness requires you to betray your own heart, it is no longer pure kindness. It has become fear wearing gentle clothing. This matters because Buddhism does not teach attachment to being liked. It does not teach you to cling to an image of being good. It teaches awareness. It teaches the middle way. It teaches you to see clearly, and clear seeing means noticing when your yes is not honest. It means noticing when your silence is not peace. It means noticing when your giving is not love, but fear of rejection. It means noticing when you are staying available to people who are not available to you. It means noticing when you are calling something patience, but underneath it is self-abandonment. There is a deep difference between sacrifice and self-betrayal. Sacrifice can come from love, wisdom, and choice. A parent may sacrifice sleep for a child. A friend may sacrifice time to support someone in need. A person may sacrifice comfort for something meaningful, but self-betrayal feels different. It carries resentment. It feels tight in the body. It leaves you drained, not because you gave, but because you gave from a place that was not free. You did not choose with your whole heart. You surrendered your truth because you feared the consequence of keeping it. The body often knows this before the mind admits it. When you say yes but mean no, your body may become heavy, your throat may tighten, your stomach may sink, your chest may close. You may feel tired immediately after agreeing. This is not random. The body is trying to tell you that was not honest. But if you have spent years ignoring these signals, you may not trust them anymore. You may think your discomfort is selfishness. You may think your need for space is cruelty. You may think your boundary is an attack. So instead of listening, you override yourself again. And each time you override yourself, your inner voice grows quieter. This is how people lose touch with themselves. Not all at once, not through one big event, but through repeated moments of inner dismissal. You stop asking what you want because you already assume it will not matter. You stop naming what hurts because you expect it to become an argument. You stop resting when you need rest because someone may be disappointed. You stop expressing your true opinion because others may misunderstand you. You stop choosing what feels right because approval feels safer than authenticity. And eventually you may look at your own life and wonder, why do I feel like I am not really here? Self-abandonment often begins in places where love felt conditional. Maybe you learned that you were loved more when you were helpful. Maybe people praised you when you were quiet. Maybe you were accepted when you performed well, stayed calm, gave more, complained less, or needed nothing. Maybe your feelings were treated as too much, so you learned to make them small. Maybe conflict felt dangerous, so you became skilled at preventing it, even when preventing conflict meant betraying yourself. These patterns do not come from nowhere. They usually begin as survival. But what helped you survive one season may exhaust you in another. This is why it is important not to shame yourself for self-abandoning. You did not start doing it because you were foolish. You learned it because, at some point, staying connected to others felt safer than staying connected to yourself. The child in you may have learned, if I disagree, I may lose love. If I speak, I may be punished. If I need, I may be rejected. If I am too honest, I may be left alone. So you adapted. You became agreeable. You became useful. You became quiet. You became low maintenance. You became the person who could sense everyone's mood, except your own. That was intelligence. That was protection. But now, the same protection may be draining your life. Buddhist compassion allows you to see the pattern without hatred. You can say, I understand why I became this way, and I do not have to keep living this way. That sentence is powerful. It holds both kindness and responsibility. You do not attack the version of you that learned to disappear. You thank that version for trying to keep you safe, but you also begin teaching yourself a new truth. Connection that requires self-abandonment is not true safety. When you say yes while something inside says no, you create inner conflict. One part of you wants to be loved, another part wants to be respected. One part wants to avoid guilt, another part wants to be free. One part says, just do it, it is easier. Another part says, why do we always have to give in? This inner division is exhausting. Even if the task itself is small, the emotional cost becomes large because you are not only doing something, you are carrying the pain of betraying your own boundary. And the more often you do this, the more resentment builds. Resentment is often the anger of the abandoned self. It says, I keep giving, but no one sees me. It says, I keep showing up, but I am tired. It says, I keep saying it is fine, but it is not fine. Resentment is not always proof that you are unkind. Sometimes it is proof that you have been unkind to yourself for too long. It is a signal that something inside you needs a voice, a limit, or a change. Many people feel guilty for having resentment, but they do not investigate what created it. They call themselves bitter, difficult, or ungrateful. But resentment is often a late message. Before resentment, there was discomfort. Before discomfort, there was a need. Before the need, there was a truth. If the truth had been honored early, resentment may not have needed to grow. This is why listening to yourself in small moments is so important. Boundaries spoken early can prevent bitterness later. The word boundary can sound harsh to some people, but a boundary is not a wall built from hatred. A healthy boundary is a line drawn from awareness. It says, this is what I can offer without abandoning myself. It says, this is what I cannot carry. It says, this is where my peace needs protection. It says, this is where my yes ends and my no begins. A boundary does not have to be loud to be strong. It can be calm, clear, and respectful. In fact, the strongest boundaries are often not dramatic. They are steady. Buddhist wisdom supports this steadiness because it teaches right action and right speech. Right speech is not only about avoiding harsh words. It is also about speaking truthfully, wisely, and at the right time. Staying silent when truth is needed can also become a form of harm, especially when the silence allows resentment, confusion, or dishonesty to grow. This does not mean you must say everything you feel the moment you feel it. It means you learn to respect truth enough not to bury it forever. There is a way to speak without attacking. You can say, I am not available for that. You can say, that hurt me. You can say, I need time to think. You can say, I cannot take that on right now. You can say, I care about you, but I also need to care for myself. You can say, I do not want to discuss this in that tone. You can say, my answer is no. These sentences may feel simple, but for someone who has survived by pleasing others, they can feel like standing at the edge of a cliff. The body may shake, the heart may race, guilt may rise. But guilt does not always mean you have done something wrong. Sometimes guilt is just the old training leaving the body. This is important to understand. When you begin choosing yourself, the first feeling may not be freedom. It may be guilt. You may feel selfish. You may feel mean. You may feel afraid. You may want to explain too much, apologize too much, soften your no until it becomes a maybe, or take back your truth because someone looks disappointed. This does not mean the boundary is wrong. It means your nervous system is adjusting to a new way of being. The old pattern says, their comfort comes first. The new wisdom says, their comfort matters, but my truth matters too. Self-abandonment also happens when you ignore your needs until they become emergencies. You may know you need rest, but you keep going. You may know you need quiet, but you stay available. You may know you need support, but you tell yourself not to burden anyone. You may know a situation is draining you, but you keep calling it manageable. Then one day you break down and wonder why it happened so suddenly. But it was not sudden. The body had been whispering for a long time. The breakdown was the shout that came after the whispers were ignored. Buddhist presence teaches you to hear the whispers. It asks you to notice hunger before collapse, tension before anger, sadness before numbness, discomfort before resentment, fatigue before burnout. The more present you become, the less violently life has to get your attention. You begin to ask, what do I need right now? Not as a selfish demand, but as a mindful inquiry. Maybe you need rest. Maybe you need space. Maybe you need truth. Maybe you need nourishment. Maybe you need to stop explaining. Maybe you need to leave a conversation. Maybe you need to ask for help. Maybe you need to admit that you cannot keep living at the same pace. For people used to abandoning themselves, even asking, "What do I need?" can feel unfamiliar. They may know what everyone else needs. They may sense moods, solve problems, offer comfort, adjust their tone, predict reactions, and carry emotional weight. But when it comes to their own needs, there is silence. This silence is not proof that you have no needs. It is proof that you have spent too long practicing disconnection from yourself. The good news is that connection can be practiced again. Start with small honesty, not life-changing declarations, small truth. I am tired. I do not want to go. I need time. I feel hurt. I am not ready to answer. I want something different. I need quiet. I cannot do this today. These small truths are like breadcrumbs back to yourself. Every honest sentence tells your inner world, "I am listening now." And the more you listen, the more your inner voice returns. There is also a form of self-abandonment that hides behind being understanding. You may understand why someone acts the way they do. You may understand their pain, their childhood, their stress, their fear, their limitations. But understanding someone does not mean you must let their behavior keep harming you. Compassion without wisdom becomes self-neglect. You can understand the fire and still not stand inside it. You can understand the wound and still not let it wound you. You can wish someone healing and still step back from their chaos. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. Buddhist compassion is not blind softness. It is not letting every person cross every line because they are suffering. True compassion sees the whole picture. It sees their pain and it sees your pain too. It sees their humanity and it does not forget yours. It acts with kindness but also with discernment. Without discernment, compassion can become a doorway to exhaustion. With discernment, compassion becomes wise love. Another reason self-abandonment is so tiring is that it creates an inner sense of loneliness. You may be surrounded by people, but if you are always adjusting, hiding, pleasing, and swallowing yourself, you will still feel alone because the real you is not being included. People may love the version of you that never says no, but the part of you with needs will feel unseen. People may praise your strength, but the tired part of you will feel abandoned. People may enjoy your availability, but the hidden part of you will wonder, would they still love me if I stopped being useful? This is a painful question, but it is also a freeing one, because real love does not require you to disappear. Real connection can survive honesty. It can survive boundaries. It can survive moments of disagreement. It can survive your need to rest. If a relationship only works when you betray yourself, then the peace in that relationship is not true peace. It is a silence built on your exhaustion. This does not mean every person will respond well when you begin honoring yourself. Some people may be surprised. Some may accuse you of changing. Some may call you selfish because you stopped being endlessly available. Some may pressure you to return to the old role. But remember, not everyone who misses the old you misses your happiness. Some miss your convenience. Some miss your silence. Some miss the version of you that made their life easier while yours became heavier. That does not make them evil. It simply means the pattern benefited them. And when a pattern benefits someone, they may resist when you change it. This is where steadiness matters. You do not need to fight everyone to choose yourself. You do not need to make long speeches. You do not need to prove that your boundary is valid enough. You can be gentle and firm. You can repeat yourself without anger. You can let others have their reactions without making their reactions your responsibility. This is part of growing out of self-abandonment, allowing other people to feel disappointed without rushing to rescue them from it. For many people, this is difficult because they confuse someone's disappointment with danger. If someone is upset, they feel they must fix it immediately. If someone is quiet, they assume they have done something wrong. If someone disagrees, they feel unsafe. But another person's emotion is not always your emergency. Their disappointment may be uncomfortable, but it does not automatically mean you should betray yourself to remove it. Sometimes the most healing thing you can do is stay present while someone else adjusts to your truth. Buddhist mindfulness helps here because it teaches you to observe discomfort without obeying it. Guilt arises. You notice guilt. Fear arises. You notice fear. The urge to over-explain arises. You notice the urge. You do not have to move immediately. You can breathe. You can feel your feet. You can return to the body. You can ask, am I about to act from wisdom or from fear? This pause can save you from repeating the old pattern. There is a sacred pause between the request and the answer. If you are used to people-pleasing, you may answer too quickly. Someone asks for your time, and you say yes before checking your energy. Someone asks for emotional support, and you become available before noticing your own heaviness. Someone asks a favor, and your mouth agrees while your body sinks. Practice pausing. Say, let me check and get back to you. Say, I need a moment to think. Say, I am not sure yet. This pause is not small. It is a doorway. It gives your truth time to arrive. At first, your truth may be quiet because it has been ignored for so long. Give it time. Ask the body, does this feel open or tight? Ask the heart, do I have the capacity for this? Ask the mind, am I choosing this freely, or am I afraid of what will happen if I say no? These questions are not selfish, they are honest, and honesty is part of awakening. Self-abandonment can also happen through staying silent when you are hurt. You may think silence protects the relationship, but sometimes silence protects the illusion of peace while the relationship quietly weakens. Unspoken hurt does not disappear. It changes shape. It becomes distance. It becomes coldness. It becomes passive anger. It becomes tired politeness. It becomes a loss of trust. If someone matters to you, truthful communication may be an act of care. Not every hurt needs a confrontation, but some hurts need acknowledgement. Your heart needs to know that you will not keep hiding its pain just to keep others comfortable. There is a mindful way to express hurt. First, you meet it inside yourself. You do not speak from the first flame if it will burn everything. You breathe. You understand what hurt. You ask what you need. Then you speak as clearly as you can, not to punish, not to win, not to force someone to feel guilty, but to honor reality. When that happened, I felt hurt. I need more respect in how we speak to each other. I do not want to keep pretending this did not affect me. Such honesty can feel frightening, but it restores dignity. Even if the other person does not respond perfectly, you have not abandoned yourself. And sometimes honoring yourself means accepting that some people cannot meet you in the truth. They may dismiss, defend, mock, twist, or avoid. That is painful, but it is still information. When you stop abandoning yourself, you begin to see relationships more clearly, not through fantasy, not through fear, through reality. You learn who can hold your truth and who only wants your silence. You learn where love has room to grow and where you have been surviving on hope. Clarity may hurt, but confusion is more exhausting. Ignoring your needs can also drain your sense of joy. Needs are not only about survival. You may need beauty, creativity, play, quiet, friendship, movement, solitude, laughter, prayer, nature, learning, or meaningful work. When you abandon these needs for too long, life becomes mechanical. You do what must be done, but you no longer feel nourished. You may call yourself responsible, but responsibility without nourishment becomes emptiness. Even a lamp needs oil. Even a heart that loves others needs to be fed. Buddhist wisdom does not reject ordinary nourishment. It invites you to be present with life, to drink tea and know you are drinking tea, to walk and know you are walking, to rest and know you are resting, to be with people and know whether your heart feels open or strained, to care for the body as part of the path. You cannot walk a path of awakening while treating your own being as disposable. Your life is not just something to be used for others, it is something to be inhabited. Coming back to yourself may feel uncomfortable at first because you are returning to a place you have neglected. There may be grief there. You may realize how long you have ignored your own voice. You may feel sadness for the years you spent pleasing people who still were not satisfied. You may feel anger over the times you made yourself small. Let that come with compassion. Do not turn the realization into self-blame. The purpose is not to punish yourself for leaving. The purpose is to return. Returning to yourself happens through repeated acts of loyalty to your inner life. You keep one promise to yourself. You rest when you said you would rest. You speak one honest sentence. You stop apologizing for a boundary that does not need an apology. You let your needs matter in a decision. You choose silence because it is peaceful, not because you are afraid. You choose giving because it is genuine, not because guilt is controlling you. Each small act rebuilds self-trust. Self-trust is not built by thinking about yourself more. It is built by not betraying yourself when it matters. When your inner voice says, "This is too much," and you listen, trust grows. When your body says, "I need rest," and you honor it, trust grows. When your heart says, "That hurt," and you do not dismiss it, trust grows. When your wisdom says, "Step back," and you obey, trust grows. Over time, you begin to feel less empty because you are no longer leaving yourself alone inside your own life. This does not mean you will always get it right. You may still say yes too quickly. You may still go silent when you wanted to speak. You may still ignore a need until it becomes loud. That is okay. The practice is not perfection. The practice is returning sooner. Maybe before you abandoned yourself for months. Now you notice after a week. Later, after a day. Eventually, in the moment. This is progress. Not loud progress, but real progress. There is a deep peace that comes when your yes becomes honest. A yes that comes from freedom feels different. It does not leave bitterness behind. It does not make the body shrink. It does not secretly hope for recognition. It gives because it chooses to give. And there is also peace when your no becomes honest. A no that protects your life does not need to be cruel. It can be simple. It can be quiet. It can be complete. When yes and no both become truthful, your energy stops leaking through false agreements. Buddhist wisdom invites you to live with this kind of inner alignment, not selfish isolation, not cold detachment, but a gentle refusal to abandon awareness. You remain connected to others without disconnecting from yourself. You love without disappearing. You help without becoming empty. You listen without swallowing your own pain. You forgive without pretending nothing happened. You stay kind without handing your whole life over to the needs of others. So if you are tired in a way sleep cannot fix, ask yourself softly, where have I been leaving myself? Is it in your relationships, your work, your family, your friendships, your habits, your silence, your yes, your refusal to ask for help, your fear of disappointing people, your need to be seen as easy? Do not ask to shame yourself. Ask because your soul may be waiting at the place where you last abandoned it. And when you find that place, return gently. Say to yourself, I am sorry I ignored you. I am listening now. This may sound simple, but it can touch something deep. The part of you that has been silenced does not need grand promises. It needs consistent presence. It needs to see that this time, when it speaks, you will not immediately push it away. This time, when it is tired, you will not call it lazy. This time, when it says no, you will not force it into yes for the sake of approval. The emptiness caused by self-abandonment is healed through self-return, not through one dramatic decision, but through many quiet choices. Choosing rest without guilt, choosing truth over performance, choosing a boundary over resentment, choosing honesty over peacekeeping, choosing your own breath before rushing to manage another person's mood, choosing to stay with yourself even when others do not understand. And as you begin to return, your energy may slowly come back, not because life becomes effortless, but because you are no longer using so much strength to live against yourself. You may notice more calm in your body, more clarity in your choices, more sincerity in your relationships, more room in your heart. You may lose some approval, but gain self-respect. You may disappoint some people, but stop disappointing your own soul. You may become less convenient, but more alive. This is the kind of rest that sleep alone cannot give. The rest of knowing you are on your own side. The rest of knowing your inner voice has a place. The rest of knowing your needs are not enemies. The rest of knowing you can love others without leaving yourself behind. In Buddhist wisdom, coming home is not only about sitting in meditation. Sometimes coming home is saying no with a peaceful heart. Sometimes it is telling the truth gently. Sometimes it is giving yourself the care you kept waiting for others to notice you needed. So let this settle softly. You are not selfish for needing space. You are not cruel for having limits. You are not difficult because something hurts you. You are not unkind because your body says enough. You are not failing because you cannot carry everything. You are a living being, not an endless container for other people's needs. And the path of compassion must include the one who is walking it. When you stop abandoning yourself, life may not become instantly easy, but it becomes more honest. And honesty has a peace of its own. You can breathe differently when you are not hiding from your own truth. You can rest differently when your no is allowed to exist. You can love differently when love is not built on your disappearance. You can walk differently when you are no longer leaving pieces of yourself behind in every room. And once you begin to stop abandoning yourself, you may notice another place where your energy has been leaking. Because even when you honor your needs and return to your own truth, the mind may still keep running ahead, trying to prepare for every possibility before it arrives. It may pull you into tomorrow, next month, next year, and 100 things that have not happened yet. That is where the next doorway opens, into the weariness of living ahead of the present moment. And once you begin returning to yourself, once you begin hearing your own no, your own needs, and your own quiet truth, you may notice another place where your energy has been disappearing. It is not always in the people around you. It is not always in the work you do. It is not always in the pain you carry from the past. Sometimes your strength is being drained by a life you have not even lived yet. Your body is here, but your mind has already traveled ahead, checking doors that are not open, fighting problems that are not present, rehearsing conversations that may never happen, and preparing for pain that has not arrived. And this is how the future, even though it does not yet exist, can make today feel unbearably heavy. There is a special weariness that comes from living ahead of the present moment. You wake up in the morning, but before you even feel the morning, your mind has already entered next week. It is thinking about what could go wrong, who might be disappointed, what needs to be fixed, what might be delayed, what you should prepare for, what you might lose, what people may think, what you should have done earlier, and what could happen if things do not go as planned. The body is standing beside the bed, but the mind is already running through 1,000 rooms. No wonder you feel tired. You have lived many possible days before this one has even begun. This kind of tiredness is hard to explain, because on the outside you may not look busy. You may be sitting still, eating quietly, walking slowly, or lying down in bed. But inside, you are working, you are calculating, you are predicting, you are rehearsing, you are trying to protect yourself from every future version of pain. And because the future never stops producing possibilities, the mind never feels finished. It keeps asking, what about this? What if that happens? What will you do then? Are you ready? Did you think of everything? And the more you answer, the more questions appear. The mind believes it is helping. That is what makes this pattern so difficult to release. Worry often feels like responsibility. Overthinking feels like preparation. Control feels like safety. Rehearsing feels like wisdom. You tell yourself, I'm just being careful, I'm just thinking ahead, I'm just trying to avoid mistakes. And sometimes planning is useful. A wise person does not ignore tomorrow completely. But there is a difference between preparing for life and mentally living in every possible disaster before it comes. One helps you act, the other steals your presence. Buddhist wisdom speaks directly to this because Buddhism understands the wandering mind. It sees how the mind travels into the past and future, then suffers from places where the body is not. The body can only live now. The breath can only happen now. The feet can only touch the ground now. But the mind can leave now at any time. It can suffer from yesterday again. It can suffer from tomorrow early. It can suffer from an imagined conversation, an imagined rejection, an imagined failure, an imagined loss, an imagined judgment. And although none of these may be happening in this moment, the body still reacts as if they are real. That is the quiet danger of living ahead of the present. The body does not always know the difference between a real event and a deeply believed thought. If your mind spends the whole day picturing difficulty, your body may tighten as if difficulty is already here. Your shoulders may rise, your breath may shorten, your stomach may hold tension, your sleep may become shallow, your mood may become heavy. You may feel as if life is too much. Not because this moment is too much, but because your mind has added 20 future moments on top of it. This is why mindfulness is not just a spiritual idea. It is a rescue of your energy. Mindfulness brings back the strength that has been scattered across imagined futures. It says, come back. This breath is happening now. This cup is in your hand now. This room is here now. This step is the one beneath your foot now. It does not deny that tomorrow exists. It simply refuses to let tomorrow consume the life you are living today. Mindfulness does not say, never plan. It says, do not confuse planning with living. Many people are physically in one place but emotionally living in another. They sit with loved ones, but the mind is planning tomorrow's work. They eat a meal, but the mind is solving a problem that cannot be solved tonight. They rest, but the mind is preparing for a conversation that may not happen. They walk outside, but the mind is already inside a future fear. Then later, they wonder why life feels thin, why joy feels distant, why moments do not satisfy them. It is because they were not fully there to receive them. Life cannot nourish the part of you that is absent. There is a sadness in missing your own life while trying to manage it. You may be trying so hard to make life safe, successful, and organized that you forget to actually live it. You may plan for peace, but never practice peace. You may chase security, but never feel the ground beneath you. You may prepare for future happiness, but ignore the small happiness available now. The mind says, later, when everything is handled, I will be present. But everything is never fully handled. There is always another concern, another plan, another unknown. If you wait until the future becomes perfectly secure before you allow yourself to arrive in the present, you may spend your whole life waiting outside your own life. Buddhist presence begins by showing you the difference between now and the story about what may come. Right now, you may have a task in front of you. The story says, if I fail at this, everything will fall apart. Right now, someone may not have replied. The story says, they are upset with me. Right now, money may feel uncertain. The story says, I will never be safe. Right now, you may feel behind. The story says, my life is ruined. Mindfulness does not insult you for having these stories. It simply asks, what is actually here? This question cuts through the fog. What is actually here? A breath, a body, a thought, a feeling, a sound, a room, a choice, a step. Maybe a real problem, yes, but usually one real problem is easier to meet than the 10 imagined problems surrounding it. The mind often makes life feel heavier by multiplying pain before it arrives. It takes one uncertainty and turns it into a whole future. It takes one delay and turns it into permanent failure. It takes one silence and turns it into rejection. It takes one mistake and turns it into doom. Mindfulness helps you return to scale. It brings the mountain back into the size of the stone in your hand. There is a Buddhist idea that suffering is intensified by craving and aversion. In Future Living, craving says, I need things to happen exactly this way. Aversion says, I cannot bear if things go wrong. Together they create constant tension. You are not only working towards something, you are afraid of every outcome that does not match your desire. You are not only hoping, you are gripping, and the tighter you grip the future, the more the present slips through your fingers. This does not mean desire is wrong. It is natural to want safety, love, stability, health, success, and happiness. The question is whether your desire has become a cage. When desire becomes a cage, you cannot enjoy today because today is only valuable if it guarantees tomorrow. You cannot enjoy effort because effort is only valuable if it produces the exact result you want. You cannot enjoy relationships because you are always checking where they are going. You cannot enjoy rest because rest feels like a threat to progress. You cannot enjoy the path because your whole mind is leaning toward the destination. And leaning too far into the future creates spiritual imbalance. The body is forced to drag the mind back again and again. That is why life feels heavy. You are not walking with yourself. One part of you is here and another part is reaching ahead, pulling, fearing, controlling, expecting. The present moment becomes something you step over on your way to somewhere else. But the present moment is not a stepping stone to life. It is life. A person who is always planning may believe they are in control, but often they are being controlled by fear. Fear says, if you think enough, you can prevent pain. But no amount of thinking can prevent all pain. Fear says, if you predict every problem, you will never be surprised. But life will still surprise you. Fear says, if you prepare for every possible rejection, it will hurt less. But rehearsing pain does not always protect you from pain. Sometimes it makes you experience the pain many times before anything has happened. This is the cruelty of worry. It charges you interest on suffering before the suffering arrives. If the thing you fear never happens, you suffered for nothing. If it does happen, you have suffered twice. Worry pretends to be protection, but often it is the mind practicing pain. Buddhist mindfulness does not ask you to become careless. It asks you to stop paying for imagined suffering with today's peace. There is a simple question that can help. Is there a real action I can take now? If the answer is yes, take the action with as much steadiness as you can. Make the call, write the note, prepare what must be prepared, ask what must be asked. Apologize if you need to apologize. Set the boundary if it is time. But if there is no real action available now, then the mind may only be spinning. And spinning is not responsibility. Spinning is exhaustion. At that point, the practice is to return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the next honest step. The future becomes less frightening when you stop trying to live all of it in advance. You do not need courage for the whole year today. You need presence for this moment. You do not need answers for every possible outcome. You need clarity for the next wise action. You do not need to solve every version of tomorrow. You need to meet the part of today that is actually in your hands. This is not a small shift. It is a liberation of energy. Many people are tired because they keep trying to carry a life-sized map of every possible future. But life is not lived from a full map. It is lived step by step. The mind hates this because it wants certainty before movement. It wants proof before trust. It wants guarantees before rest. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that uncertainty is part of the human path. You do not walk because you can see the whole road. You walk because the next step is visible enough, and then the next, and then the next. In this way, life becomes less overwhelming. Future living also creates the illusion that you are always behind. Because the mind is constantly measuring where you think you should be, it rarely honors where you are. You may have made progress, but the mind says, not enough. You may have survived something difficult, but the mind says, what next? You may have a peaceful day, but the mind says, do not relax, something may go wrong. You may finish one task, but the mind has already opened 5 more. This constant forward pressure turns life into a race with no finish line. Even your victories cannot rest because the future is already demanding more. Mindfulness brings dignity back to the step you are taking. It says, this matters too. The dish you are washing matters. The breath before the conversation matters. The 10 minutes of quiet matter. The small choice not to react matters. The meal you eat with attention matters. The present is not empty just because it is not dramatic. Most of life is made of small moments. If you are absent for them, you become absent for most of your life. There is a powerful Buddhist practice of returning to simple sensations because sensation anchors you in reality. Thoughts can create endless futures, but sensation is immediate. Feel your feet, feel your hands, feel the breath at the nose, feel the contact between the body and the chair, feel the warmth of the cup, feel the movement of walking. These are not childish exercises. They are ways of reclaiming the mind from imagination when imagination has become a source of suffering. The body is a doorway back to now. When worry rises, try saying, planning is happening, or fear is predicting. This helps you see the process instead of becoming lost in the content. The content may feel urgent. What if this happens? What if they leave? What if I fail? What if I cannot handle it? But beneath the content is a pattern. The mind is predicting. When you name the pattern, you step back into awareness. You are no longer inside every possible future. You are here, noticing that the mind is producing futures. That noticing is freedom. There is also the weariness of rehearsing conversations before they happen. You may replay what you will say, how they might respond, how you will defend yourself, how you will explain, how you will protect your heart. Sometimes this can be helpful if a real conversation needs preparation, but often the mind does not stop there. It creates arguments, accusations, misunderstandings, and emotional battles that do not exist yet. By the time you see the person, you are already tired from a fight they never attended. This is how the imagined future can affect real relationships. Mindfulness invites you to return to direct experience. Instead of having the conversation 20 times in your head, prepare the truth simply. What do you need to say? What is your intention? What boundary matters? What tone would reflect your values? Then let the rest be unknown. You cannot control another person's response by rehearsing every sentence. You can only meet the conversation with awareness when it comes. This is a gentler way to live. The same applies to fear of failure. Many people live ahead of the present because they are trying to avoid the shame of getting something wrong. They think if they prepare perfectly, no one can criticize them, reject them, or be disappointed. But perfection is not safety. It is another prison. You can prepare carefully and still face uncertainty. You can do your best and still not control the outcome. The Buddhist path asks you to bring your full attention to the action, then release your grip on the fruit. Not because the outcome does not matter, but because clinging to the outcome steals the peace and clarity needed for the action itself. When you are too focused on results, the present becomes stressful. Every step is judged by what it might produce. Every effort is measured. Every delay feels like danger. But when you bring awareness to the action itself, something softens. You write one sentence, you wash one plate, you take one breath, you make one choice. You do the task as fully as possible. This does not make life passive. It makes life more intimate. You are no longer using the present only as a tool to control the future. You are actually living it. There is also a kind of future living that comes from waiting for permission to be happy. You may tell yourself, I will enjoy life when I am more stable. I will rest when I have more money. I will feel proud when I achieve more. I will be peaceful when things are certain. I will love myself when I become better. But this keeps happiness locked behind conditions. It makes the present feel like a hallway you must rush through. And if the future takes longer than expected, you remain deprived for years. Buddhist wisdom offers another possibility. It says you can touch peace in the middle of incompletion, not complete happiness, not perfect satisfaction, but a real moment of presence. A sip of water can be peaceful. A breath can be peaceful. A quiet evening can be peaceful. A kind word can be peaceful. The problem is that the mind often dismisses small peace because it is waiting for a larger peace. But small peace is not meaningless. It is how the nervous system remembers that life is not only struggle. This does not mean ignoring serious problems. If something needs change, change it as wisely as you can. If something requires planning, plan. If responsibilities exist, meet them. But do not let responsibility become a reason to abandon the present completely. You can be responsible and still feel the breath. You can plan and still notice the sky. You can work toward change and still receive the kindness of this moment. The goal is not to choose between future and present. The goal is to let the present be your home while you take care of the future. A mind that lives ahead often believes that peace must be earned through complete control. But peace is not control. Peace is relationship. Your relationship with uncertainty, your relationship with thought, your relationship with desire, your relationship with fear, your relationship with the moment you are in. If you relate to uncertainty as an enemy, you will be tense. If you relate to thought as absolute truth, you will be dragged. If you relate to the future as a threat, you will be tired. If you relate to this moment as a place to return, you will have somewhere to rest. There is a beautiful strength in saying, I do not know yet. For many people, those words feel dangerous. They want answers. They want timelines. They want proof. But I do not know yet can be peaceful when spoken with trust. It does not mean helplessness. It means honesty. It means you are no longer pretending to control what is not here. It means you are allowing life to reveal the next step instead of torturing yourself for not seeing the whole path. The mind may want certainty, but the heart can learn patience. Patience is not waiting with tension. Patience is waiting with presence. It is not staring at the future and holding your breath. It is living today while tomorrow forms in its own time. This kind of patience is powerful because it returns your energy to where it can be used. You cannot act in tomorrow. You cannot breathe in next year. You cannot make a decision in a moment that has not arrived. You can only prepare what is reasonable, then come back to the life in front of you. This is why the present moment is not weak. Many people think presence means doing nothing, but presence is the only place where wise action can happen. If you are trapped in fear, your actions may be rushed or avoidant. If you are lost in fantasy, your actions may be disconnected from reality. If you are stuck in prediction, your actions may be shaped by imagined threats. But when you are present, you can see more clearly. You can respond instead of react. You can choose instead of panic. You can act from the ground beneath you, not from the storm inside your head. Future living also steals gratitude, not because you are ungrateful, but because gratitude requires attention. You cannot be grateful for what you do not notice. If your mind is always ahead, you may miss what is already supporting you. The bed that held you, the food that nourished you, the person who checked on you, the breath that stayed with you, the small improvement, the quiet protection, the ordinary mercy of another day. Gratitude is not forcing yourself to be happy. It is noticing what is here alongside what is hard. And noticing requires presence. If your mind keeps running ahead, do not hate it. The mind is trying to protect you. It thinks if it reaches the future first, it can make you safe. So speak to it gently. Thank you for trying to help, but we are here right now. This tone matters. If you fight the mind, you create another battle. If you shame the mind, it becomes more restless. But if you acknowledge its effort and guide it back, it begins to trust presence. Like a child who keeps running toward the road, the mind needs a firm but gentle hand. You can create small bells of mindfulness in your day. When you touch a door handle, return. When you drink water, return. When you hear your phone, take one breath before answering. When worry begins, feel your feet. When planning becomes spinning, write one real next step and pause. When you walk, know you are walking. When you eat, know you are eating. When you speak, hear your own voice. These are ordinary acts, but they become sacred when they bring the mind home. Over time, you begin to see that the future is not the enemy. Your relationship with the future is what needs healing. A healthy relationship with the future includes preparation, hope, responsibility, and openness. An unhealthy relationship includes obsession, control, fear, and constant absence from now. You can care about tomorrow without moving into it emotionally. You can make plans without letting plans become your prison. You can have dreams without using them to escape the present. You can respect uncertainty without worshipping fear. This shift brings back energy, because when the mind is not living 5 steps ahead, the body can stop running. The heart can notice what is here, the senses can open. The day becomes smaller in a good way, not less meaningful, but less overloaded. You are not carrying the whole future at breakfast, you are eating breakfast. You are not carrying next month in the shower, you are feeling water. You are not carrying every possible outcome while talking to someone you love. You are listening. This is how life becomes livable again, not because all problems vanish, but because you stop adding imaginary weight to every moment. If you are tired in a way sleep cannot fix, ask yourself, where has my mind been living? Has it been living in the next problem, the next achievement, the next fear, the next possible loss? The next version of you, the next conversation, the next disappointment, and then ask, what is actually asking for my attention now? Maybe it is your breath. Maybe it is one task. Maybe it is rest. Maybe it is a person in front of you. Maybe it is a feeling in the body. Maybe it is a simple choice. The present usually asks for less than the future demands. This is not about shrinking your life. It is about returning your life to its true size. The mind can make a single day feel like a whole lifetime of worries. Presence brings the day back into one moment at a time. This moment may still be hard, but it is meetable. This breath may still be shaky, but it is real. This step may still be uncertain, but it is possible. You do not need to carry the entire road to take the step beneath you. And as you practice returning, you may notice small changes. You may catch worry earlier. You may pause before spiraling. You may plan more clearly and stop sooner. You may sleep with less mental noise. You may enjoy small things without needing them to solve your whole life. You may feel more grounded during uncertainty. These changes may not look dramatic, but they are signs that your energy is coming back from the imagined future. The present moment is not always comfortable. Sometimes it contains pain, responsibility, grief, or unanswered questions. But even then, it is more honest than the imagined future. The present can be touched. The present can be breathed through. The present can be responded to. The imagined future can only be feared, controlled, or chased. That is why living too far ahead is so exhausting. You are trying to live where your body cannot go. So let the mind come home, not forever, not perfectly, but now. Let tomorrow remain tomorrow for a breath. Let next month stay where it is. Let the conversation that has not happened wait until it happens. Let the problem that is not here remain outside the room. Let this moment be enough to meet. Feel the body, feel the breath, feel the life that is actually here. You may discover that the present is not as heavy as the mind made it seem. And if you have listened this far, maybe something in you already understands the truth. You were not tired because you were weak. You were tired because you were carrying too many versions of yourself, too many unfinished emotions, too many silent battles, too many expectations, too many people's pain, too many imagined futures, too many old disappointments, and too many moments where you had to prove that your hurt was real before you allowed yourself to rest. Buddhist wisdom does not tell you to run from your life. It teaches you to come back to it with softer eyes, to stop fighting what already is, to stop pretending you are fine when your heart is asking for honesty, to stop chasing peace as if it is a prize somewhere far away, to stop holding on to people, roles, identities and seasons that were never meant to stay forever, to stop explaining yourself to those who cannot see you, and to stop abandoning yourself just to keep the world comfortable. The rest you are looking for may not begin with more sleep. It may begin with one truthful breath, one honest no, one tear you stop hiding, one expectation you release, one moment where you let yourself be human without shame, one quiet return to the person inside you who has been waiting patiently beneath the noise. So tonight, do not ask yourself how to become perfect. Ask yourself what you are finally ready to put down: the false self, the old guilt, the silent resentment, the need to be understood by everyone, the pressure to be good all the time, the belief that you must keep proving your pain before you deserve gentleness. Let it be lighter now. Let your heart come home. And if this message touched a tired place in you, leave a comment with the words, "I am coming home to myself." Not for others to judge, but as a small promise to your own heart that you are ready to stop running from yourself. If you found peace, comfort, or clarity in this message, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so we can keep walking this gentle path together.